Coming to you from high atop our studios in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're listening to Tech Move. This is episode 35. In today's show, we discuss a lot of new gear, like the Pilotfly H2, Dracast LED160, Bright Tangerine Arm, Phantom 4 Pro Plus, DJI Ronin M, and the SWIT D-Tap battery. We delve also into the difficult discussion of the Panasonic GH5 versus the Sony A6500. I'm Rod Louie, and with me is Keith Moreau. Get ready! It's time for another exciting episode of Tech Move. Let's go! Here we are in a brand new year of 2017, and you have joined one of the most exciting podcasts that there is in the universe, and I speak about the one and only Tech Move podcast. I am Rod Louie, and with me, as always, is the lovely and attractive Keith Moreau. Keith, Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, Rod. And I'm just finishing up with my makeup and foundation here. It takes a lot to stay beautiful. The
fantastic, beautiful, and attractive Keith Moreau. It is 2017, and just as and when I say we, Tech Move ended 2016 with a big bang, we are continuing that bang with a new episode here in 2017. Don't worry, folks. Don't get used to it. It'll take us months to get out the next one. But nonetheless, we want to wish you all a very happy and prosperous 2017 from Keith and myself. And we want to thank you for joining us here for another exciting episode of Tech Move, where you are pretty much walk away from this podcast knowing a little bit less than you did when you first started. So,
and more confused
and a little bit dumber. But thank you very much, because I get that every time I record a segment. Keith, I want to start off this brand new podcast that we have here on Tech Move with as we ended 2016, I was talking about how I am very hot on getting moving into the Sony space of cameras and maybe picking up an A6500.
Right.
I am still on that path. But I want to say thanks to you almost derailed that yet again. As you often do.
That's what I'm here for.
With the announcement from Panasonic with a brand new Panasonic GH5, which has been upgraded, redesigned, and filled with tons of features. Now, you sent me a text on that, and just as I was about to click purchase for my A6500, I pretty much threw the computer right out the window to destroy it from being able to submit until I got a chance to investigate what is going on with the GH5. I have to say that I was quite excited to hear that the timing was such the GH5 had been announced. Now, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but it had just gotten announced, I want to say, mid-December. Is that correct?
I think it was maybe later than that. It was pretty darn recently.
It was really super recent, but wasn't it also, I could have sworn that was like announced at one of those camera
CES, but that CES is actually kind of still going on.
That's still going on. I thought it was done before that at Photokina or something like that. Or
I think there were rumors of it. Let me see. I think I texted you the day that it was announced. So just check the date of my text.
Let me check that horrifying text that I got. which was very very alarming to me.
Yeah,
which
it was only a few days ago.
Oh, Wednesday. It was just last Wednesday.
Yeah, the 4th.
Was that all? Oh, it was just. Oh, see how in my fluster, I thought that weeks had elapsed already. So
I think you've been concentrating your investigations.
I had been.
Time has stopped.
Because you know what? I will tell you this. You let me know. I was forget work. I said, work, that's going to wait. I got to investigate what's going on with this GH5.
I know. We have our priorities.
We have our priorities. Mm-hmm. Keith, I want to share with you some of the highlights. Actually, I'm going to go.
It's really funny is I'm actually looking at the B&H site that you recommended, and I'm looking at all the questions, and I think most of the questions were posed before the actual specs were announced.
Yes.
So all the answers are,
we'll wait and see.
Yeah, like here's one. Will the GH5 have a global shutter? And the answer is, the camera is still in development, so we cannot say for sure at this time. And it was actually asked October 30th of 2016.
All right. Well, let me run through a couple of the highlights that we have here. Okay.
Okay.
So, what they promoted is, of course, this is the GH5. This is a 20.3 megapixel camera.
Mm-hmm.
Comes equipped with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, with a 3.2-inch LCD. Now, the 20.3 megapixel, it's still on the Micro Four Thirds with no low pass filter. It shoots 4K video internally. All right, and it does variable video frame rates in 4K, max of 60 frames per second, and up to also 180 frames per second.
Right.
And I think one of the most attractive things on the camera is the 5-axis in-body image stabilization.
Right, which we're pretty sure that would have because all their other newer versions have it.
And everyone else is coming up with it and all this kind of stuff and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Some fairly interesting updates to it. Also on the B&H site, they also indicate that it has a Venus engine image processor, whatever the heck that means. But when I read that, I always want to sing that old song, Venus. Hey, anyway.
I don't know that one.
I know you don't. That's beyond your years, young man. And then as far as photo goes, it shoots, I think, in 6K.
Well, it does that 6K photo mode, which is just like rapid fire,
almost
like video.
Yeah, it's almost like in a burst mode.
Yeah,
and let's see, what else does it have? Built-in Wi-Fi. Oh, it has a 225 area advanced depth autofocus system. Let's see what else. And personally, and I don't know why I'm going to say this, but it just sounds funny anyway, has dual SD card slots in it. So
that's actually pretty cool.
One of my favorites there. So whether it be
cool.
for continuous shooting or backup or what have you, in what seems to be a body that is not much bigger than the GH4.
I think it's just slightly bigger.
I think it's slightly taller. Would that be correct?
I actually don't know the exact.
Could be.
What I've heard is just kind of like a little bit bigger all around.
Yeah, just a little bit bigger, but pretty amazing for being able to fit in another card slot and all this kind. And I think the thing that's kind of interesting about it is that I believe it has a full HDMI output.
Yeah, it has a full-sized connector. Yeah.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. So here's the thing that you didn't mention, which I think is, in my opinion, for video, is like the biggest feature. It's got a internal 422 10-bit recording at 4K.
I was going to mention that, but I didn't know how to read it, so I said, I'll leave that to you. Yeah, 10-bit 422 internal recording, internal, a big
internal.
deal,
And
right?
that's unprecedented. So that's the thing that's gonna. So what I like about this camera is that's the thing that's gonna drive all the Sonys and the other manufacturers to record higher quality internal video, because that's pretty darn good. That's starting to get like pro level internal video.
Is that kind of like Adamus type of recording right there?
Yeah, actually it's Adamus, although it really depends on the camera. The Adamus external recorders and pretty much all the other recorders can usually record 10-bit 422, but it really depends on what the camera can output. So, some cameras just can't output 10-bit. They usually output 422 color, but they don't usually output 10-bit luminance values. So that 10-bit internal recording is pretty darn good for 4K. That's unprecedented.
Yeah.
You won't even get that in the higher end camcorders, like the cheapest camcorder that you might get that in with a kind of advanced codec, not raw recorders like the Blackmagic, but would be maybe the FS7, and that's still like $8,500.
Right.
So you have a $2,000 camera that's recording 10-bit internal video,
right,
at a pretty high bit rate. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So if you're into that 10-bit space because you want to do some grading and that's very, very attractive for a $2,000 camera.
It also features full HD video up to 180 frames per second or 12 frames per second of continuous shooting. But it also can record 4K video up to 60 frames per second, right, at that 10-bit 422. So
where are you seeing these specs now? Because my specs don't quite match your specs.
it's looking right on the B&H thing.
Really? Just like at the product highlights or some other space?
In the summary, very top of the thing.
Because this is probably wrong because I think you're right what you read, but I see internal 422 10-bit 4K video at 2430. So I think I might be looking at a different page than you. Let me see.
Yeah, because yeah. Oh, and then you know what? They actually have firmware updates scheduled.
Oh yeah,
that they're already announcing, right? Which is we'll get to that later, but there is a lot of growth that it seems this GH5 is going to be able to go through here. This seems to be not one of those that's just going to be a one and done type of thing. Whereas you'll be able to upgrade through various firmware updates, patches, what have you. So,
yeah. I think some of these features that they're actually advertising won't be available at the first
right.
very sale of these. They're relying on that update. Like for example, I think the 10-bit internal recording is not available on the first version.
Do you think they're going to charge for that?
I don't think they'll charge for the 10-bit. I'm hoping the one. I know they're going to charge for the vlog.
Oh, right. They will charge for the vlog, which is what they were doing with the GH4. Is that correct?
Yes. It's like
at about $100.
Yeah, $100 to unlock it.
Is it worth it to do that?
I think if you're a pro video shooter, it's not that much money.
Right.
So
you're just going to do it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I get it,
Right. One thing I'd also like to bring up here's the thing that they're really promoting here that I have actually taken a little bit of issue with is they say that it has sensitivities for ISO of up to 25,600, which is quite an impressive number, right? Especially for a GH5. But in a micro four thirds, Keith, is even going beyond 1,000 or 1,200 ISO going to be even doable with this camera? Is it even going to be usable?
So here's the thing, Rod. I'm going to just put a little fly in your ointment again because I know you're really hot on the A6500.
Let's review with some of our first time listeners here. The reason why I'm moving from my GH system is because I just need better low light performance, and Micro Four Thirds, I just don't know if it's going to give it to me or not. I just don't know. I do a lot of things indoors. I do a lot of photography indoors, and it's just a little bit painful with my GH1. You know, and with now ISO going up to 25,600. You know, I don't know how much better it can really get on a Micro Four Thirds system. Go ahead, pop my balloon.
So, you know, the thing is, it just all things being equal, and we said this before in a few other podcasts. You know, the bigger the sensor is, the more light it's going to gather.
Correct.
It's just physics.
Correct.
It's like a big lens on a telescope is going to gather more light than a little lens.
Right.
And that cannot be changed. But what can be changed is the technology that's on the sensor. So sensors have progressively been getting more and more sensitive over the years. You know, like the first digital camera had a terrible sensitivity. You know, it was basically worse than ASA 100.
Sure.
You know, it just and really low res to start with. It's like there's no reason why you'd even want one of these cameras. I got one, but
right.
Like one of the first Apple quick take cameras, I had that.
Sure.
It was like less than DV resolution or something. It was like 700 by 400 or something like that.
Right.
And you know, you could have to shoot outside. You really couldn't shoot inside without a flash. You know, so obviously even the GH1 is way better than that one.
Yes.
You know, and that's like a span of 10 years, right?
Correct.
So it's possible that a Micro Four Thirds sensor could have acceptable low light capabilities, like low light capabilities that would fall within your current standards of what you might expect in your situations. You know, indoor lighting, low level indoor lighting, which is what you want the Sony cameras for. That's why you're hot on the Sony cameras.
That is correct.
So there's a lot of talk on the low light capability of the GH5. There's actually some tests been done with not even super fast lenses, you know, like 2.8s to 4 lenses. And a lot of the people that are doing these tests have noticed that it is actually appreciably better than the GH4, like a lot better.
Really?
The low light performance. It's not just a little bit better. It's a lot better, like 2 to 3 times as good. So, for example, I personally, when I shoot at 1600, I start noticing the grain on the GH4.
Okay, right.
So
correct.
Yeah, so I have to start, and the grain is not pretty. It's ugly grain for some reason on the GH4. It's not as pretty. Like if you start bumping up the Sonys or Canons, their noise, you know, at least on the Canon cinema line, it's actually pretty nice, and even on the Sonys it's pretty nice. But on the GH4 it's like grainy and patterny.
It looks like snow. It looks like snow, like bad reception.
Yeah, it looks gritty.
Yeah,
and the other ones don't look as gritty. They look a little softer. So so you don't want to bump it up just because if you do, it doesn't look as good. But what I'm hearing is this. You know, it's obviously a new sensor in this GH5, and they've also got better processing on the back end. And that's the thing. Sensor plus processing equals noise performance. And I think they're getting supposedly they're doing kind of like a interpolation type of noise reduction, where it actually measures multiple frames in a row to see what the real noise of the sensor is. And actually, that's kind of a new technique for canceling out noise on a sensor, especially in video. Is you can either increase the resolution, it's called super resolution technology, or you can decrease noise by taking a little dot there that wasn't there before in the previous frame, and saying, oh, if that dot wasn't there and it's there in this one, that's not the image, because that dot wouldn't just pop here and there. That's actually noise, so we're going to get rid of that. And through that kind of smart noise reduction, they can actually make it seem like it's a lot better than it should be. So see, people are using 3200 and 6400 ISO with more than acceptable results.
Yeah.
So and just 4 years ago on my 5D Mark II, 6400 was crap.
Right.
And that's a full frame sensor. That's even bigger than your A6500.
Right.
Like a lot bigger. So in just a few short years, something at 6400 on a full frame sensor is not as good as this GH5, I think.
So this new 20.3 megapixel digital live MOS sensor mixed with the Venus engine, you're saying could very well deliver some marked improvement from even the GH4.
I think I personally think it's 2 to 3 times as good.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and even there, it might still. So once you bump it up to 6400, maybe it'll be the equivalent of 1600, which to me was the limit of acceptable ISO. And even there, maybe it's even nicer looking because they've changed the algorithm so that the noise generated isn't so ugly. It's more pleasing. Kind of like film grain as opposed to digital grain.
Right.
So I would say, it's like until this is out and people actually, lots of people test it and you look at a lot of samples, you won't know for sure if it's acceptable to you. Is it as good as the A6500? Most likely not. I think Sony's got it down with the noise reduction and the larger sensor. There's a lot of other advantages, but I don't think you can just out and out discount it. That is not going to be good enough in low light.
Right. I would hope that there's improvement. Again, being a GH1 user and getting to the GH4, where I've seen some footage that people have produced in low light, have looked really, really great. It's really been fine, and I could see what you're talking about. All these iterations, every little bit there's an improvement here and there. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I'm going from a micro four thirds to an APS-C sensor with a Sony. What kind of difference am I going to get?
I think sensor size wise, it's not a huge jump. If you look at the comparison of sensor sizes, like let's go to a website that just compares sensor sizes. I'm just going to type it up.
Okay.
So let's see. Well, here's one. Photoseek.com.
I see that one.
Yeah, that's the one that pops up at the top of my Google.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll show you all the different sizes.
Right.
So,
like my micro four thirds looks to be a 2 times crop, whereas my APS-C would be a 1.5 times crop. Exactly.
Yeah, and maybe the Sony is a little bit bigger even than that. Maybe a 1.5. I'm not sure what the crop is on the 6500, but it has another a little bit larger area for APS-C on Sony.
Right.
Because there's a difference between Sony and Canon APS-C.
Correct.
Yeah. But as you can see, it's not a huge. It's not like an incredible difference between those two.
Right.
It's basically 0.5.
Yes.
Right. Whereas it's a huge difference between a micro four thirds and a full frame.
Right.
It's like you can fit multiple. They can fit like 5 micro four thirds into one full frame sensor.
Right.
So
right. True.
Whereas you can only fit maybe 1.5 4 thirds into a Sony APS-C sensor.
Right.
So it's not a huge difference. So yeah. So if all things being equal, just on sensor size, maybe it's 25% or 30% potentially noisier.
It is interesting though to hear that the way that we should be thinking about things is more in the in-body processor, how those algorithms turn this grain into something different, into something a little bit more. That's a very interesting way to think. I haven't thought about that so much. I'm still kind of stuck in the old way of things, which is just saying, hey, ISO 800 is about as high as I can go. That's it. And it's going to be stuck that way forever.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get better and better and better over time as sensor technology improves and as post-processing of the sensor improves. It's
Right.
really a combo. And in my opinion, Sony's done an amazing job with, for example, the Sony A7S series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just said, we're just going to make this as low light, noiseless as we possibly can. But it's not just the sensor size. The sensor's really good. It's also the post-processing.
Right.
And in fact, they didn't even change the sensor over the A7S and the A7S II. It's the same exact sensor.
It's just processing different.
Yeah, it's just a better processing,
Interesting.
better color space.
Yeah.
In fact, even in video cameras, the processors in video cameras don't change even as frequently as in still cameras. So, for example, the FS5 that I have, it's an APS-C size sensor or Super 35 size sensor, which is kind of like APS-C. And it's the same exact sensor as the F5, which is an older Sony camera, and the FS700. Both those things were released like 3 or 4 years ago. It's the same sensor, and this is a current camera.
Yeah.
So, or 1 year old. So, these things don't. It's the processing and how they treat that signal, more so than the sensor itself sometimes.
Right.
So
Right.
and yeah. So
let me move on to something that I'm wondering of your opinion on, and that's the 4K video recording that it's promoting right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about 10-bit 422. Has different picture styles, Cinelike V, Cinelike D, as well as in-camera LUT. What is it? Vlog is going to be upgradable. Is this attractive to you?
Yeah. For me, the fact that it has a high bitrate 422 10-bit internal recording is pretty darn amazing. You could set this up as a B cam. It doesn't have to be an A cam. Mm-hmm. You could still use a higher end camera for your A cam if you want, but this could possibly be an A cam. But definitely as a B cam, because you can, first of all, get a high bitrate recording. It still uses fairly inexpensive SDXC cards or equivalent UHS cards, and yeah, I could just imagine getting one of these just as a B cam, and it's smaller. Still have some good lenses from my GH4 days, and I think I just have a lot more room in post to deal with this camera as a B cam. Just set it and forget it. Probably much easier to set and forget.
Let's not gloss over the fact that there is also zero recording limit, only set by how much room you have on the card. There is no recording limit.
There's no recording limit, and the battery life should be hopefully way better than the A7 series.
Well, and as you and I both know from our experience with the Panasonics, the battery life on all their cameras have been just spectacular for the most part.
Yeah. You can get maybe 2 to 3 hours on one battery, which is amazing. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And I don't think anything's going to change on that.
No. So if you have one of those battery grips and you have a couple fresh batteries in there, you're looking at an all-day cam.
Yeah. Right. Now, speaking about that battery grip that you were talking about, Panasonic has come up with a new option, and I don't know if you've seen this, but it's with regards to XLR inputs.
Yes.
And this is they're getting away from the battery grip now. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah. Well, that other thing that you were talking about was, I think they still offer a battery grip for this new camera.
I thought that was just for the GH4.
No, well, it's a bit. This camera's a bit different shape, so they have to have a different battery grip.
Right.
But it's still there still is a battery grip offered.
Okay.
It's just for this model. But the thing that's really cool now is they have something similar to what the A7s have, which is a hot shoe interface for audio.
Right.
And that's actually really cool, because then you can mount a pod on the top of your hot shoe with XLR inputs and nice preamps and things like that. So that's a lot easier than it used to be. You used to have get this really expensive, like $1,500 thing that you'd bolt on the bottom of your camera, and it was really badly designed because it needed its own power supply, and it was just bad.
That's right. I
Yeah,
remember it was almost it was like the in the old ways the old auto winders, right, for SLRs. And but this thing is hot shoe mounted. You have full access to the bottom of the camera with this thing.
Yeah.
And it has all your inputs that you need. And
Yeah. It's a total ripoff of the Sony, whatever their thing is called. I actually have a couple of them. It's a total ripoff of it, and I love them. They're great.
and it actually and this microphone adapter, this hot shoe thing, doesn't look all that expensive for what it does, which is like $400. I don't know if that's a lot of money, but it seems like not a lot.
It's about in line with the Sony one. It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not a bad price.
Is that something you would do, or is that or do you like that grip type of thing instead?
Well, I could do both.
Yeah,
I could do both. I could get the battery grip for the bottom to add extra battery life. I might just, if I really needed that life, I might not get the grip. I might just plug my Hdmi power station thing that I got from my A7s in there, because it's got an adapter for the GHs as well. But and the pod thing, I personally don't know if I would get it, because I don't think I'd be using the GH5 for my run and gun type microphone recording.
Mm-hmm.
When you put this pod on, it's about the size of the camera almost, and then also you're plugging these big heavy XLRs into it, and then you have to have a mic also mounted on it, and it's starting to get kind of gigantic, and
yes,
and it's not going to be my A cam for run and gun most likely.
Yeah.
So I'd probably just still use my Shure equivalent to the Video Mic Pro thing on the top for audio. I personally would just do that with this GH5. I don't see the need to add this big XLR rig on top. But I see for a lot of people, this is their main camera. Yeah. You can record great audio on it.
Right. Exactly.
For interviews or whatever.
Yep. And have that full ability to mix and get your own levels and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Have really good monitoring. Be able to put a really nice mic of your choosing on there.
Yep.
That's I really think that Panasonic has raised the bar. It really, the jury's out as far as image quality, because that's really all this is about.
Right.
I mean, they can just put all these great features in, but image quality is the key.
Correct.
And always their image quality was kind of, in my opinion, kind of secondary. It was always kind of the Panasonic kind of digitally image quality.
Yeah.
And kind of carried over from their little camcorders, kind of have that same quality. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure what the culture that creates that quality, because the Sony camcorders are always kind of smoother looking, in my opinion, equivalent ones. But if they can get over that hump and get to the point where the color space and color science is really great, that's going to sell it.
Yeah.
Because they're just hitting all the tick marks.
Right.
For all the things that you might need in video. The only other thing that I would really love to see if they have it is when you're actually recording, to be able to punch in and zoom to get a better focus, where you can actually magnify whatever the sensor's seeing. So you can
right.
And you can't do that now on the GH4 when it's recording. So I'm hoping that is available when it is recording.
Well, speaking about that, let's touch on the 225 area advance autofocus system.
Okay.
Sony A6500 has that. What is that? I think they're 400 plus focus points or something like that.
Yeah.
This one has 225. Certainly enough. To do a good job. Your thoughts on that?
From what I have read, it's not as advanced as the Sony system, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it's phase detection autofocus like in the Sonys and the Canons.
Mm-hmm.
It's advanced contrast detection, and contrast detection is the old style of autofocus, which is more based on two images. So I'm not really sure I'm not really sure how much better it is or worse it is than PDAF, but I have a feeling it's not as good as PDAF, which is the Sony and the Canon method,
Right.
where they actually have embedded sensors in the actual image sensor that are just handling autofocus. So I don't really know what these 200 points or whatever of DFD AF points are.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're really the same. They might be just kind of trying to match up with the Sony stuff, and this is their marketing way to talk
to
about
say,
it.
hey, we've done something, or whatever.
It's better than it was before, because before it wasn't that great.
Right.
It was okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's actually better than some, like the Sony's contrast detection. I think the GH4 focusing is better than the Sony's old style of focusing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so using the same technology, I thought that the GH4 was better, but not sure how much better the advanced DFD AF system is going to be.
Right.
So that jury's out on that.
Okay, yeah, I think, obviously we're going to have to see it in action. We're going to need to see a final product on it. I was watching one of the Panasonic demos of the GH5, and essentially they really had body only, right, that they're promoting. I don't think it was working yet. It didn't seem like it was working because they didn't really know how it would work with things like a Metabones adapter or other lenses. Didn't know how that was going to go with the autofocusing system. Like you said, jury's still out. We're going to have to wait and see when it gets released.
Yeah. We're just going to have to see a few tests when it comes out. I guess I personally would love it if it was way better than the GH4, because it's a little bit slow on the GH4.
Uh-huh. You mean as far as the autofocus system goes?
Yeah.
You're talking about?
Yeah, just
slow?
this autofocus. We'll have to see. And also, is it compatible with all their lenses, or is it more of a sensor thing versus lenses?
Right.
So we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I know their stabilization system isn't totally compatible with all the lenses. So there's a way of having the in-body stabilization kind of mate with the lens stabilization, produce even better stabilization. But I think it's only available on some newer lenses. Not their whole line of lenses.
Okay.
So, and that's to be expected. There's like electronics that needs to communicate stuff back and forth, and they may not have thought of that in the past when they're designing earlier lenses.
Sure.
So, but I'm actually, now that we're talking about it more, I'm actually a little bit more excited about it.
Really? Okay. So that's what I was going to ask you. Where does this fit in? We're going to be talking this episode about your Christmas gatherings of things that you just got. Where does the GH5 fit into maybe
my priority list?
Yeah, your priority list. What you're really thinking about here?
I'm always looking for a small, high quality setup. The smaller and higher quality, the more attractive it is to me.
Yes,
it just makes it more useful. Right. It's like a smaller package, but it can give you high quality. That's kind of amazing.
Okay.
So I love the 10-bit and the 422 internal recording. That's like, you don't have to carry an external recorder around. It's got a high bit rate. I think it's up to 400 megabits per second internal, which is crazy for recording SD cards. I don't know how they do that. But so if they do that, why can't Sony do that on their higher end camcorders? Why are they charging us like thousands of dollars for their stupid proprietary cards? Right? So, I mean, I think it's to make money, really.
Right. Sure.
But anyways, the GH5, that's kind of exciting. Like, wow, I can just take this one or two of these GH5s, and they're only $2,000, and this is going to give me a much higher, potentially higher quality end product,
right,
as a B or C cam.
Right.
I can record like a wide shot with the super high bit rate and internal recording, and I can do a lot with that image. Like if I want to have a wide shot and just narrow it, since it's in 4K, just zoom in on one person and then color correct that one person because he might be in more of a shadow than another person that's in bright light or whatever.
Right.
I might be able to do that with this camera now, whereas I couldn't really do it with a Sony.
Right.
That's not possible.
Yeah.
So if it can do something that makes things more possible that weren't possible before, then it's attractive to me.
Huh.
I like that.
Right. I would be very interested to see how it works with like some of the lens adapters, so that you'd be able to use some of your Canon glass, and others would be able to use other glass that they have, because that of course is the big thing nowadays.
Like using the Metabone speed boosters and things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Metabone speed booster is exactly what I'm talking about. Or the Com lights or the Sigmas, whatever's out there. Whatever will fit a micro Four Thirds. That's the thing. That's the thing that folks are wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, jury's out, but I'm almost about to pre-order this thing now.
Are you really? Wow,
I'm
really?
almost about to. Yeah, because it's
Wow.
kind of exciting. It's like, wow, what if this thing is just the image is just beautiful?
Yeah.
What if it was?
Right.
What if I looked at it and said, wow, this is better than my FS5. This is equivalent to my A7R image-wise.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less light sensitive, but maybe outdoors
but for full lighted, fully lit type of environments, no problem with that. It'd be something to really look at.
Yeah, like outdoor where there's plenty of light. We're only talking indoors in low light or outdoors in nighttime where maybe there's an issue. But yeah, during the day, why wouldn't I just bring this around and have this amazing solid internal recording?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at a lot of the images online and see before I start spending the money on it.
I want to say that we are. It's coming out to a neighborhood store in March. I don't think it's available yet, right?
It says at least on one of the websites of this retailer that it's March 2017, end of March 2017.
That's what I was
that's actually later than I heard before.
Yeah.
But I have some friends, like my friends at Texas Media. If I wanted to, I could probably pre-order or get an early version of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
well, that'll be very interesting when that comes out. I mean, in another segment, I'm going to share my thoughts on how you've derailed me and how my cause for confusion is even greater now than it was before the holidays. So I hold you 100% responsible for that. So
5 years from now,
right,
Rod has still not got his new camera.
Right,
it's my fault.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason why now I'm at this spot where I should be thinking about the GH5, but you know what? No, I'm not. No, I'm not, because the GH5 is pretty much where I want it to be right now. But nah, I'm not going to do it. So I don't know. We'll talk about that in another segment. But any parting thoughts on the GH5 before we close out this segment here and move on to more introductory stuff?
I think it's actually.
Oh, I do have one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
$2,000.
$2,000.
Okay, so
is that a lot or not a lot?
Well, I mean, body only. This is a far cry from the GH1, which at that time when I purchased it, I want to say was $1,200 or something like that.
Really, was it that? But that was. I think it had been out a little while, right?
And even at that, it had been out a little while.
Yeah, so I think when it first came, because I think I paid like 15 or 14.
So I mean, look. Of course, everything gets more expensive with all the look at the A6500, right? $400 more than the 6300, and heck, the 600 you could get, for a bag of lunch and a box of crayons if you want to. So $2,000 body only for this type of firepower. I don't know. I guess it sounds okay.
I think it's
it's about right.
It's in the ballpark because
Yeah.
the GH4 I think was 17 or something when
Okay.
it first came out, and I think I paid 17 for it because
Okay.
I got one of the first ones.
Right.
And so just a couple $100 more 3 years later,
Yeah.
or $300 more 3 years later, that seems like that's almost just inflation.
Yeah.
Just and that much more than yours because you bought yours 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
I think that's just inflation.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's in line with what it should cost.
Yeah.
I think maybe the A6500 is in line with what it costs because it's like $1,400, right?
The A65, $1,400. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's in line. I think, the difference is that the Lumix, the GH5 Lumix, is the flagship camera for
Right.
Panasonic.
That's right.
And the Sony A6500 is like the middle.
It's kind of it's almost entry level almost. Maybe
it's
not quite entry. But
it's like the high end of the entry or the low end of the pro.
Right.
It's kind of right in the middle.
Right.
So so that's the difference.
Yeah.
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 But I guess all I can say is
good luck to me.
Good luck to you, and I personally really appreciate Panasonic for coming out with a groundbreaking type of hybrid camera again. They
always do that. They
Yeah.
always do. I mean, remember Keith when GH1 came out?
Mhm.
I mean that was pretty big
Yeah.
right there.
That
was pretty big.
It was the first one to have such nice video features and a great still camera. And they've done it again with the GH5. That internal recording is the thing to me that tipped it over the edge. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing that's going to make the other manufacturers kind of take notice and say, "Oh, we got to do this too."
Yeah.
I don't know if they will or not, but I would love if they did.
That'd be something. That'd be something. Well, hey, congratulations to Panasonic and the Lumix line. GH5 coming out in probably the end of March. Keith will have it by the end of next week, and he will give us a full review of it and shoot some in-cave, in complete darkness.
I'll be shooting some shots with my bed covers over me.
That's right.
And,
He'll be wearing wearing his bed sheet over his head with the camera underneath with him, and try and navigate his way around the room. This will be exciting. Again, end of March, $2,000, the Panasonic GH5. Keith, let's take a little bit of a break, and we will come back with more stuff that happened over the holidays, and we will talk about all the goodies that Santa brought to you, and I will pant with anticipation with everything that you share with us. So let's take a break. Let's reset, and we will come back with more of this 2017 maiden voyage of TechMove. All right, and we are back with this newest 2017 episode of Tech Move. Rod Louie and Keith Moreau here. We are continuing on with our introduction area. But in some ways, what I'd like to do right here, Keith, is I would like to kind of take this intro but kind of move it into another segment that was made popular by you and I earlier in 2016.
Oh, okay.
And what I think I'd like to do is I think I'd like to, because we're coming off the holidays and, and all this kind of time off that we've had, without a doubt, Santa Claus is run by your house with the latest adapters, lenses, bodies, lighting, whatever it is.
Yes.
And I'd like you to kind of talk about some of that stuff. Now, let's go back to a old fan favorite, if we can, and let's call this segment Keith's New Stuff That He Hasn't Actually Used. Now, this is something that is a fan favorite among the Tech Move community, and we've been getting messages left and right how they actually love to hear about how Keith spends so much money on stuff, but yet doesn't really use any of it. And, me as your broadcast partner, I also love to hear how any human being can spend this kind of money and really not use anything that they purchase. As you know, I methodically to a fault have to plan out every cent that I have in these purchases. But I love living vicariously through Keith Moreau. So,
Yes.
Keith, the floor is yours. What did Santa bring you that you kind of care about, but not really?
Okay. First thing I'm just going to talk about the stuff I got recently. Remember, I'm telling you about some of the BH photo lightning deal things that they do, and I just look at them and go, I think I could use that.
Now, does this only happen at the end of the year, or during a certain holiday? Is it only during Thanksgiving? Is it after Christmas? What is it? Month of December? That's all it is? What is it?
No, it's pretty much all the time.
Oh, okay, very good.
It's just all the time.
It's a marketing tool.
Yeah, they do. In fact, they have one every night. They have one every night.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to get them as a sponsor. I'm breaking them down. I've been calling them every other day.
Oh, great.
That cassette that I left of our podcast on the marketing director's antenna.
Right.
I think after I left the fourth one, I think he finally listened to it. He was able to track down an old used cassette player and play it.
Right.
And I think we might get the deal.
Right. Great.
Anyway,
Good.
so I don't mind talking about them. But
okay.
So they have this daily deal, or I think it's called Deal Zone. Yeah, it's called Deal Zone.
Okay.
And they just have this amazing 50% off or half price stuff all the time.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that I ordered through that, or just maybe not through that, but just because I couldn't keep my finger off the buy button.
Sure. Of course.
So, what's the big one? Okay, probably the biggest one that I'm definitely going to use it as soon as I, take my X-Acto knife or my shipping box knife to open it up. It's in my garage still. Is the DJI Phantom 4 Pro Plus quadcopter.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yes.
now let's refresh the listening audience.
Mm-hmm.
You actually own quite a few Phantoms already, do you not?
Yes, I have 2 Phantoms already.
And
now I have 3.
Now you have 3. Now are you opening up the Keith Moreau International Airport, or what are you doing with this?
I've been contracted by Amazon to do same hour delivery. And
that's right. Delivering that pizza is so important.
yeah, it's called Prime Plus 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 Prime. It's very expensive.
Very good. All right, so this is your third Phantom.
My third Phantom. The first one I never used. It's still in its box.
Right.
The third one I've never used. It's still in its box.
Right.
The second one I have used, and I love it. But the third one is the DJI Phantom 4 Pro Plus.
Oh, Pro Plus.
Right. And
Okay.
the Pro, so they just came out about a month ago with the Phantom 4 Pro. And the Phantom 4 Pro is pretty much like the regular Phantom 4, but the camera is much, much better. And that's why I got it.
On this Pro Plus.
Yeah. It's got a really nice camera. It's got a 1-inch 20 megapixel CMOS sensor on it, which I think is big, like twice as big as the previous one.
Wow.
It's got a great codec. It's actually using H.265.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so H.265 is this new compression scheme that's better than H.264. It's actually one better.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
I would imagine
it's one better.
Just like the GH5 from the GH4. Exactly.
It's one better.
I get it.
Yeah. And no, but actually it's supposedly about 50% more efficient than H.264. So for a given frame of file size, you can if it's the same file size, it's like having 50% more bit rate, but you're not using that bit rate. It's just compressed better.
Okay.
So the result is that it's basically like having a higher bit rate. So I think it's 100 megabits per second bit rate, but because of this new H.265, it's almost like having 150 megabits per second.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and apparently I've seen a few films with it, like Philip Bloom did a film with his, and a few others, and they're really nice. It's like, I feel like it's pro at this point, pro level. Like, I think it's better than the Inspire, which is the Inspire is the big high end DJI, kind of one step up from the DJI Phantom.
Okay.
And it's at that level of the Inspire 1, or even better than the Inspire 1.
Because of this new technology.
Yeah, because of the new camera.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about it. I'm just looking forward to shooting with it. I'm going to do a lot of shooting with this Phantom this year, because I'm studying for my test.
And the test is the pilot's license test?
Yeah, it's the official commercial pilot's license. For
and there is something, there is a real thing like that, right?
No, it is. There is a test. You can get tests for it online or through the App Store or through other places to just practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a few apps on my iPhone where I'm studying it, and they're really dry. They're like aeronautical maps.
Oh yeah, sure.
And you have to say, what is this? Which airport is closer to this coordinates?
Oh wow.
And
yeah, I'm on the DJI site right
Mm-hmm.
now, and I'm looking at it. 60 frames per second, 4K, 20 megabits with a 1-inch image sensor, mechanical shutter. I like the 5 directions of obstacle sensing.
Yes.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yes.
Looks like it has 30 minutes of flight time.
Yeah, it's probably the same as before. It's probably more like 20.
Oh, okay.
If once it starts getting to 20, the Phantom 4 starts going, I really want to land.
Oh.
We have 10 minutes left. I really want to land now.
Right.
Land me.
Right.
Land me now.
And the controller looks like it can operate as far as 4.3 miles. Is that how I'm reading it?
Yeah, but I don't think I'd ever fly it that far.
Yeah, you probably can't see where it is at that point. So
I think one of the things about like flying it legally is it has to be within view.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think you could see it from 4 miles away.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, there's other, but the reason I got the Plus, because there's the 4 Pro, right? And they had the 4 Pro out for a while.
Okay.
But the 4 Pro Plus was back ordered. It wasn't available yet.
Okay.
The difference between the 4 Pro and the Pro Plus is about $300, but so it's $1,800. It's $1,799. And the regular Pro, not the Plus, I think is $1,499.
Okay.
So but for that $300 extra, you get a high brightness built-in display on the controller.
Oh.
Which means you can actually use it out in the bright sunlight without a hood.
Oh, nice.
Which is really convenient.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I didn't like so much about the Phantom 4 was I was using my big iPad on it.
Right.
And you have to have a hood on it. You can't just, unless you're doing it in dusk or something, you have to have the hood because the iPad's just not bright enough.
Right.
And now that it has this built-in kind of smaller display, but that's okay. I don't have to have that thing where I just have to strap on the Hoodman hood and do all this extra stuff. I just whip it out and it's ready.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I like that. Anyway, have yet to ride it. Of course, I couldn't fly it now because it's just been raining here,
right,
in our area,
right,
for like a week and a half. So
right, but you're ready to fire it up. You're ready to take it up pretty soon.
Yeah, I definitely want to test it. I'm doing a project this month, and I'm definitely going to use it on it, whether I have this license or not.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, FAA. That's actually not true. I'm lying.
Right, exactly.
Disregard that last comment. I'm not going to fly it at all until I have my license.
That's right. That's right. We're all law-abiding citizens. All law-abiding citizens. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's the Phantom 4 Pro Plus, I believe it's what it's called.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations on that. We can't wait to see some of that footage that you're going to take. Okay. Keith, share with us a couple more things of new stuff.
New stuff
that you haven't actually used yet.
Okay. I got this arm. So one of the big things in this in the world of having a separate monitor is what do you mount it on? Like, how do you actually put it on your camera or whatever to use it? And it's just, there are these things called Noga arms, which is this old, it's kind of like the original Magic arm It's like a shrunken version of the Manfrotto Magic Arm. So it's basically like an elbowed arm that has a kind of knob in the middle, and when you tighten the knob in the middle, everything becomes stiff.
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of reposition it to any position you want, and then when you tighten this knob, it just stays there.
Okay.
Well, theoretically, they stay there. Because I found that most of these arms, especially the cheaper ones, are just useless. Because they'll... I mean, they will stay there, but the problem is where they're attached to the camera.
Oh, okay.
You know, they're usually screwed into some mount, some quarter 20 mount on your camera or nearby your camera.
Sure.
And inevitably, when you somehow put a little bit of extra force in the counterclockwise direction, they unscrew. Because there's all this leverage on this little quarter 20 screw.
I get that completely. It always loosens it up just a hair.
Yeah, and then it just starts swinging freely, and then it's totally useless.
Right.
So, so one of the things you can do is you can get these. There's different ways. The ways that I've solved it in the past is to use the NATO SWAT mounts, which are pretty good because they're kind of like little grips that grip onto these mounts, and they can't really twist, so that part's good. However, there's some disadvantages to those. Anyway, another thing is how do you one-handed manipulate the monitor? Like, yeah, you can with two hands you can kind of move it around until it's where you want it, and then you can tighten it down. That always takes two hands because these arms don't have a kind of inherent amount of friction in them. They're just either really floppy or they're really tight.
Right.
So there's been this thing advertised called the Bright Tangerine Titan Support Arm with pivot head, and I got one of those, and it was kind of like a vaporware thing for a while. It was announced at NAB and even before, but they just came out with it, and I said, I'm gonna have to get one of these. This is pretty amazing. So I ordered one. I pre-ordered one because they weren't out for a while, but I ordered it and it just came in pretty recently.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can take a look at it, but it's called the Bright Tangerine Titan Support Arm.
I am looking at that right now at B&H, and they're actually out of stock right now.
Yeah, they're out of stock. There's two different colors. One is this bright orange color.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that one. I got the black because I think the orange is a little
black.
Yeah. I think the orange is a little too gaudy. Although it's cute, but I prefer the black because it just, because everything else in my system's like what's this big bright orange thing? So
sure.
Anyway, they're both the same price, so it's up to you. But the thing that's cool about this arm, and I have it in front of me, is I haven't really mounted anything on it, so it falls within our criteria of things that I haven't used.
Right.
But I do have it. It's not in the mail. It's actually here.
It's actually there in front of you, just like the DJI Phantom.
Yeah, that's in my garage. This is actually in front of me. So it's cool. It's the thing that's really cool about it is that even when you have it loosened to position it into a different position, and I'm trying to do that now. I'm loosening it up, and it's not actually loosening. What's happening here?
And just as a reminder, there are no returnables on this. so however you do it, you bought it and you're keeping it. So
I'm trying to loosen it.
And you need 5 hands. Right? You need 5 hands.
I moved it into this position where it wasn't taking up much space.
Right.
And there must be some trick to this. There must be some trick to getting this to work. Because I can't actually separate these arms to move them. They're just stuck. I have to use like some kind of big vise to actually get it to move.
Well, I'm sure you'll be writing your review on the website very shortly.
Oh, it's a good thing there's no return on this? Did you check?
It says this item is non-cancelable and non-returnable.
Oh, I think you're looking at the orange one, but the black one I can return.
Oh,
That's
let's
one
see.
I have.
Well, does this? Oh, you might be right.
Yeah, I think I'm right.
You might be right. You're right. It only says it when I click on the orange one. I wonder why. They're racist.
I think because the orange one is like
they can't get rid of them quick enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody's buying them.
Nobody wants this one.
We have like 1 million of these sitting around.
Okay, this is really fun because I don't think I've actually taken it out of the bag and tried it, so I wanted to see if
this is obvious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, theoretically, then you can just unloosen this arm and it moves. It moves around really, really smoothly. And then, okay, so here's the claim to fame of this arm, though. This is for real. It's pretty stiff, but you can actually both of the part that screws into the camera and the part that screws into your monitor, both those parts have enough friction to move around. So you can kind of reposition them with one hand, and then when you're all set, you can actually tighten down the arm.
Oh, okay.
And then they become really stiff.
Oh, okay.
So when the arm is kind of floppy and loose, these things are still kind of tight. Like they're tight enough to support a pretty heavy monitor, but still be able to move it. But when it's all tightened down, then it all gets really, really tight. All the different joints become tight.
Can this thing support a lot of weight, or?
Yeah, it's actually, and that's the thing that's maybe a little bit annoying about this, is that it might be a little bit too heavy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it might just be a little bit too heavy. So I'm just gonna see what's going on with this arm. I've actually loosened it up all the way, and it's still not coming apart. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to call the Bright Tangerine tech support just to figure out how to actually use this arm. I love your arm, but I can't actually use it. Okay.
I would love to use the arm, but you know what? It just doesn't work.
I can't separate it. It's not moving.
That's great.
Okay, it's the Bright Tangerine arm that is only in one position.
That's funny.
I'm gonna show you a picture of what my arm looks like right now.
I'm sure it's
It's frozen in this position.
I can only imagine, because like I'm looking at the picture on B&H Photo right now, and it's in this beautiful 9 o'clock 9:10 kind of look, and I'm sure yours looks like pretty much like a pocket knife.
Mine is like 12 noon.
Yeah, I'm sure
mine is like 12 noon, and it can't change from 12 noon. Okay, well, this is not an indictment of Bright Tangerine. I'm sure it's some user error. I'll be reading the manual on this arm.
Oh, I see it right now. Yes, it looks very, very good. Yeah, it looks like it's completely immovable right now.
It's not. It's like a big locked arm. It's
awesome.
an arm with rigor mortis.
That's excellent.
Yeah, dead and stiff.
Excellent.
Okay, so
very good. All right. Well, that is the Bright Tangerine Titan support arm with pivot head, and I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm sure it is. But you know what?
Awesome.
That's the reason why for this particular segment, because this is all Keith's stuff that maybe hasn't really been fully investigated yet. But it is something that he thinks theoretically should be great.
It should be awesome.
And you will just have to tune in as to how actually great these items are. So
yes.
That's our tease for you right now.
Or if they need to be sent back because they're defective for some reason.
Right.
Which happens.
Which does happen. Okay,
happens.
Bright Tangerine Arm, the Phantom 4. What else we got?
We got the Dracast LED160.
Dracast LED160.
Yes. Now this is kind of probably similar to one that you actually have, and I have it in my little pack that it came in.
Okay.
And it's actually, I mean, it's not overly exciting, but it was a really good deal that I couldn't pass up.
A Dracast LED, is it a 160 you said?
Yeah, it's the 160.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a bicolor, very small LED panel. It's probably about 4 inches by 6 inches.
Right.
And it's kind of thick. It's maybe about an inch.
It looks just like mine. It looks just like mine, but
okay,
I'm sure
yeah,
mine's much
it's like
worse.
yours. So this is not. But the thing was, it was a good deal. It was only $80.
Oh,
it's usually like $150 or $200.
I'm looking at their prices for these Dracasts, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah. So like this one I got for $80.
That sounds like a heck of a deal.
Yeah, and the normal price is $225 because Dracast is really high end. They're like
not like mine. Mine's made by like Jimmy's Lights or something like that.
Yeah, Jimmy's Lights is okay.
It's okay, but it's not as good as Dracast.
Yeah. So, but I got it, and it's got this kind of distinctive blue anodized finish, which I guess stands out.
Yes.
I have another one that is probably close to Jimmy's Chinese Lights.
Yes.
That's just like yours, which I hardly ever used. But I just figured, well, I could always use another one of these because it's small and it's
Yeah.
probably pretty darn bright. But I actually have never plugged it in. In fact, maybe I'll just plug it in now. Let's just put a battery in there.
You know, I'll tell you what. For as much as I tease Jimmy's lights and any of these, you know, small LED160s, I think they're actually quite good. They're actually quite useful. I've used them on several things, not only just video, but also kind of like a fill light for photography. And it works really, really great. It just casts a nice warm light upon my subject. You know, if I'm doing something from an angle or whatever, it lights up a background just nicely. I think they're great. I think they're great.
Good, good utility light, just
Yes.
extra thing, not too much space in your bag.
Right.
Yeah, so I just plug it in. So I guess it's out of the category of haven't used it yet, because I'm using it now.
Right.
And I'm checking out
Well, that's good. You're giving us a full review. Does it? Are there lights on it?
There are lights there. It's bicolor, so I can select the color.
And what's the color?
Well,
It'll
it
be
goes,
tungsten or white, right?
yeah, it goes between. It actually is continuously variable.
Oh.
So it goes between a tungsten color to a very bright daylight color, kind of a bluish color.
Okay.
There's there's kind of a. It's not like if I turn the knob, it's pretty smooth going from one color to the other until it gets to be right almost like the middle, and then it seems like there's a pretty big shift. And then it goes to very blue.
Aha.
But, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Not bad. And here's a funny question I'm going to ask you, because my Jimmy's lights thing that I have, it takes it's a very odd 5 AA batteries. Why
okay.
5? I never know why. So you're always messing up like a pack of batteries that you have to buy for these things, because it takes 5. How about the Dracast?
Mine takes one Sony NPF, really common type of battery. I
Okay,
have tons of them.
See, and that's the thing about my Jimmy's lights. There is an option to put a Sony battery on this, which I haven't done just because, I love, throwing away alkaline batteries into the sewer when I can, and
Flushing them down the toilet.
Flushing it down the toilet and all this kind of stuff. So I love doing that, and so. I always use AA battery, but 5 is often really weird,
Yeah. 5 is weird. Well, you just have that spare for those that actually you don't flush.
Right.
There's
right. Exactly.
and this particular kit comes with an AC adapter, which is nice, and then it comes with a D-tap adapter. So D-tap is a kind of a standard. You may have seen them. There's like 2 little connectors with a kind of a D-shaped kind of outer insulating connector, and they're really common, used a lot in camera gear. So, like a lot of batteries have that output, which segues very nicely into the next thing. But we can finish this up if you want, and we'll go into the next.
I think we've exhausted everything that there could be on a Dre Light LED 160. I mean.
Yeah.
What was it? Draymond, Light,
Dracast,
whatever, Dracast, whoever.
Dracast.
Okay, that's the Dracast LED 160.
That's the Dracast.
Draymond, Dracast.
Draymond,
okay,
Draymond.
what else we got here? What else we got?
Oh, well, we were talking about D-tap. So D-tap is this type of power connector, and it is a pretty nice power connector, and I'm just going to look up what the volt. I think it's a standard voltage. It used to be called P-tap, and some people refer to P-tap, and some people refer to D-tap. But the voltage, I'm just looking it up, is what is the voltage? Standard voltage. D-tap standard voltage, ? I think it's 14. D-tap standard voltage, 12 to 29 volts. Well, anyway, I'm not sure exactly. 14.4 volts, I guess.
I'm still trying to just look it up, for crying out loud. D-tap battery.
probably have to edit this a little bit. DTAP output voltage.
Well, Atomos has one.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of batteries actually have them on their on their.
Yeah, Atomos spare DTAP dummy battery. But it's a dummy battery. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, I'll have to look it up. It's not immediately available, but I think DTAP is a 14-volt output.
Okay.
Anyway, so one of the things that I want to try to do is to use the Odyssey more while I'm recording on my FS5 in RAW. And using the Odyssey maybe not for RAW, but to record ProRes. But the output from the what the way that the FS5 works is if you have it in RAW mode, it will output RAW through the SDI connector.
Okay.
And then the Odyssey will convert that to ProRes and then record it onto the SSD drives that are on the Odyssey. So, but I want to try to limit the weight because I want to try to use it more for run and gun or portable situations, not just the standard tripod situation. So there are these batteries, and there's a few manufacturers. The one I got was called the SWIT battery, and it's the S-8U93.
SWIT S8. I see that actually.
Yeah.
Oh no, I see the 6.3. I'm sorry. I see the 6.3. Is that what you're talking about?
There's one called the 9.3, which is just bigger.
Okay.
It's just, this has got more to it, and this is kind of cool because it's got a USB output. Okay, so that's the regular standard USB, so you can power a USB on it if you need to. But the thing that's cool is it's got a DTAP connector, which is the higher voltage connector.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And trying to see if that has a voltage on it.
I like this.
Yeah. So it's a big battery. It's a 93, which is just looking at what the actual output is on it.
They all vary in their output and what they support and all this kind of thing. So I'm sure you're 93 because I'm looking at a 63. I didn't find the 93.
Yeah, it's called the S-8U93.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's got a 86 watt hour capacity, so it's pretty darn huge.
Right.
And anyway, so I can take the DTAP out, and I have a DTAP power adapter for my Odyssey that goes to their connector. So I'd be able to plug that into my FS5, but not have to put a big battery on my Odyssey. So this is kind of a way to save weight and bulk.
Nice.
And then just have that power cable going into my Odyssey.
Yeah.
And then if I have other DTAP devices, like other monitors or other things, like a light, like this particular light that I got, the Dracast.
Right.
I could also power the Dracast off this as well, because I have a little splitter that I can put in line with the DTAP.
Right.
So, yeah, so I got that, and actually, this doesn't this kind of violates our rule about not having used it, because I actually have used it.
Oh, you have used it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, thank you for ruining the segment. That's fantastic. That's good. Well, you know what? Put it in the box, and it'll reconstitute itself as not being used. So.
I haven't used it much.
Right.
Okay, so let's go on to some other stuff.
Okay.
So I have had the inkling to try to start using my FS5 on a gimbal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And because I really want to take advantage of the 10-bit internal HD that it has. It has a really good internal HD recording. It doesn't, maybe the 4K is not such high spec, but the HD is high spec. It's 10-bit 422 HD.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's internal to the little SD cards.
Right.
So, but the camera itself is a little big, and with a lens on it is a little bit too heavy for my Came TV single.
Okay.
So I decided to try to explore possibly getting a gimbal for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A 3-axis, 5-axis gimbal, something like that.
Yeah, a 3-axis gimbal.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Oh, the 5-axis might have the Steadicam arm on it, which is a possibility depending on which one I get. But no, 3-axis electronic gimbal.
Okay.
Kind of like the other gimbals that I've had in the past, like your Nebula.
Sure.
Kind of like your Nebula.
Right.
So, and so I was thinking, I really don't want to have something gigantic because that's kind of obtrusive. I want to try to stay as small as possible.
Right.
And I was actually inspired to get something called the Pilotfly H2.
Oh. I actually considered that myself before the Nebula came available.
Were you considering the H2 or the H1?
I want to say. I want to say it was the H1, obviously, because it would be cheaper.
Cheaper, yeah, and it may not have been out. It came out fairly recently, like 6 months ago.
Right, but I also want to say the H1 was no longer available.
Well, there was the H1 Plus.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so the H1 was okay, and then the H1 Plus I think had a little bit more features, but it was still pretty small.
Okay,
but the H2 is big.
I mean, like I'm looking at pictures of it. So did you? Okay, so you did get this.
I got the H2.
You got the H2 3-axis handheld gimbal stabilizer. Did you get it with the two-handed holder kit or just the?
I just got it without it to start with, and because the holder kit is just it doesn't really save you any money if you get it.
Okay.
You just get it separately. So I just wanted to try this. Plus, I didn't think I really needed the holder kit.
I am very surprised by this because I would not imagine that the Pilotfly H2 or any of the Pilotflies could handle something like a FS5.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that way too, and I thought, but if I can, I'm going to try it and see what happens. Because I actually did see it, just like 3 or 4 videos on the web with people with them on it.
Right.
People using them to film stuff, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. So it wasn't an abundance of them, but it obviously some people had gotten it to work. So I spent a couple of days getting it to work.
Okay.
When I got it, and
so you've used this item as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This segment is actually going down the toilet quite rapidly. Good one. All right, this is good.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I've tried it out, but I actually haven't really used it because it didn't really work.
Oh.
So, yeah, because I mean, I tried balancing it for a while, and there's really, I feel like there's no way to get this to work unless you do something special to it. So the reason that smaller gimbals like this don't work is that they're meant for shorter cameras where the center of gravity is kind of small.
That's right. DSLRs, all these things are pretty much what it's meant for.
Right, and the FS5, even though it's actually kind of small, tiny, and light for what it does, is still a lot longer than most DSLRs.
Right.
So, but I still felt like, well, if these people did it, even if it doesn't have full range of motion, it could still work for me. Anyway, I really could not get it to work unless it had extra weight on the back, because there's too much weight up front when you've mounted it, so that it fits and can still spin. So, but if you put so basically it's just too front heavy. But if you put some weight in the back, then it doesn't become front heavy and you can actually balance it. So that's what I did. I just kind of cobbled together a plate. And one thing that I really love about this is that it uses the standard Arca Swiss type plate.
Okay.
So it has its one short one that it comes with in the box, but I have some longer ones, and I was able to take a longer one and then mount kind of a cross cheese plate on the back of it to kind of make like a T.
Right.
And then on the T, I screwed in some weights that I had around, because I have some little weights from other things that have quarter 20s on them.
Right.
And they're kind of like what you got when you got your Optica. Those little weights?
Yes. Yep.
Kind of like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I screwed those on the back, and I was able to get it to still be fairly light, but also to balance.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, like with the FS5, trying to go on this gimbal, I mean, it's got to be kind of a balancing act. I mean, you can't really go for very long using this gimbal, can you? I mean, just physically
holding it up.
Right.
I probably could go for like half an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually not that heavy. So with the gimbal itself weighs a few pounds.
Right.
Okay? The gimbal itself is I think heavier than the Cam TV that I have.
Okay.
With the FS5 and the weights, the FS5 and the weights are only about like 3 pounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually not that heavy.
What kind of lens are you using on the FS5 when you're using a gimbal?
I was using
a short one.
Yeah, I didn't even
like
try.
A 50 mil, a nifty 50 or something like that, maybe.
No. Well, what I used was I have 2 lenses that were appropriate. One, and they're both just native Sony lenses, so I didn't have to have that extra length of because when you start adding the extra length, even with a light lens, it starts getting too front heavy again.
Right.
So I just use my Sony 10 to 18 f4.
Oh, okay. That's
which is a nice short,
yep,
but also really nice looking lens.
Yep.
Not the best maybe, but okay. And also the I think I told you the Rokinon 12 millimeter, which is a native mount. And it's a nice lens. It's pretty fast. It's 2.8, I think.
Yeah, and that's short too.
And it's pretty short. It's actually slightly heavier than the 10 to 18. But anyway, but when you have then you have to put the LCD in the top to just even see what's going on.
Oh wow!
Right, because the Sony stripped down with everything. You could take everything off and record, but you wouldn't be able to see what you're recording.
Right.
So I had to put that on top. When I put that on top, then balance it became harder. It's possible, but I found like it was vibrating too much.
Mm-hmm.
When things aren't quite perfect, your gimbal will not be really smooth. It'll start kind of going.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. Because it's trying to find its center, and the motor just keeps running.
Yeah, and it just means that it's just a little too heavy in one direction than another. So
right.
I just started. I actually got it to be pretty darn perfect though, in the kind of passive mode where the motors aren't on, where I could just kind of rotate it around. It wouldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've done that with yours and got to that point.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I turned the power on, it would actually do fine. But it was like always had this kind of vibration going on. And I could also see in the image that it was a little bit vibrating. So I heard that Pilotfly's tech support was awesome, and that you could actually give them an email and they could actually control your computer and start like getting it to tune up well using this software called Simple Basecam Electronics, Simple BSG. Mm-hmm. Or BCG or something like that software. Mm-hmm. And I actually experimented with it, got it to work on my Mac, tried some things out, could never actually make it work better with the software than just the built-in default settings. Did learn a lot about this software though. I had no clue about how to use it before. And this is the same software you could use on yours too.
Oh, okay.
If you ever wanted to.
Oh, okay.
It has like motor strength and dampening and all kinds of weird settings.
Oh, wow.
You know. So theoretically, you can get your camera package to match perfectly with the gimbal if you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But I decided to just try to get tech support from them, and supposedly they had really responsive tech support. So I sent an email out like a week ago, and I haven't gotten a response yet.
So much for great technical support.
Yeah, so much for that. So
that's great.
But I'm also kind of thinking. I kind of rethought, why I was going to use this. One of the reasons I would use this is to use it along with the Odyssey. Right. And you need to mount the Odyssey somewhere. Uh-huh. Right. So I can't really mount it to a handheld, single-handed gimbal.
Then you'd really look silly.
Not only look silly, but it seems like it would just be really
defeat the purpose. It would just defeat the purpose completely.
Yeah. So then I just decided to order a Ronin M. Oh, okay. Which are really good. And see, this is the connection. That is still in the mail. That is still being shipped to me. Ah. Yeah, and apparently it's caught in some kind of snowstorm somewhere. So
let me look at this. This is the Ronin M.
Yeah, so it's kind of the mini version of the original Ronin. It's a smaller version of the original Ronin.
It's a two-handled thing, though, right?
Yep, it's a two-handled thing, but it has a lot of third-party support. It's kind of like the argument of should I go Sony E-mount versus, it's been around and it's so popular that there's tons of people making third-party stuff for it.
Oh, this is a DJI product as well.
It is. I'm like, I've invested a lot of money in DJI in the last year.
We really should buy stock with them or something like that.
I think you should. They're really growing. Yeah. But this has been around for a while. This has been around for like 9 months, or maybe even longer. So, but it's a really tried and true gimbal. I've seen footage. The footage that I've seen, it looks super smooth, like much smoother than almost any other footage I've seen. And it has all these extra add-ons. Like there's this company called Cinemild that makes these special plates for extra weight if you need to kind of do what I want, but in a more professional way of counterbalancing it. Uh-huh. Because it's kind of also meant for smaller cameras, but it has a huge weight limit on it. It's
I do like this. It looks like it's for anything up to 8 pounds.
Yeah, and apparently people have loaded it even more.
Wow.
I think one of the reasons they say 8 pounds is that it's not reasonable to have an SLR with it, but if you add this dovetail thing that Cinemil makes, then you could add even more weight to it and balance it better. And he has videos where he's balanced really huge cameras on this teeny little gimbal. So, because it really is not that big. So, and also you can mount it on. There are options to mount it onto your Steadicam arms, which I have, so you don't have to carry it and carry this weight around. So if you're thinking about an all-day shoot,
right?
There are also options to mount it onto cars, and other moving objects like jibs and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably going to return the H2, even though I like it, and then probably use the DJI Ronin M just for pretty much everything else.
I mean, H2 would work really great, right, with something like DSLR body type, mirrorless body, one of your A7s or a GH5 or something like that. It would probably work out great with something like that.
I think it really would, and I think from what I can see, it's a very nice gimbal and it's very well made.
Yeah.
I think it's actually maybe a little bit nicer. And maybe a little bit nicer than the Came TV single, just build quality. I feel like it's a little bit sleeker, a little bit better designed. The Came TV single is a little clunky looking.
Yeah.
Also, the H2 folds flat when you can store it, so that actually makes it a lot easier to transport.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, the Came TV single is always in this kind of slightly uncollapsed state because it's got stops in it. So. But I think I will return the H2 just because I don't really need it. So, but we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So So let me see. I think I'm just going through it. I think that's pretty much it for me and the stuff I have not yet opened. It's going to be a lot of stuff though.
I'm sure there's going to be I'm sure there's more in the processing plant on its way over to the Keith Moreau warehouse. So we'll me and the listening audience will just be waiting with bated breath as to the next payload you will be expecting. So
maybe in the final segment of this episode, we'll talk about one more thing, or we'll talk about maybe after I've tried these things out how I like them.
Okay,
how's that? If I get my Titan arm to untighten,
you might have to use a welding gun or something like that to melt it down or something like that, or flamethrower or something like that. Well, good. I'm glad you destroyed something while on air. Well, that's really nothing new to us, but nonetheless, it's always nice when we can always have a fresh destruction of a product on air. But Keith, thank you very much. That's a lot of nice, new, great things that were had by you. We would really appreciate you being able to talk about them with some experience the next time. But we'll wait on that as time permits. All right, this is Rod Louie, Keith Moreau, and you're listening to Tech Move. Hey kids, we're back with Tech Move. It is Rod and Keith, and this is going to be one of our famous time lapses that in our digital filmmaking and cinematography we often love to do. And we are now going to move ahead at least a couple of weeks here, because now we're going to talk about the things that Keith has actually tried from our last segment, where it was things that he had gotten. Isn't that correct, Keith?
Well, pretty much, yeah. Well, we just left off in the last segment about all these things that I hadn't really even tried yet,
right?
Even though I bought them and they were just sitting in my, sitting like in my box,
literally
in my garage.
sitting, just sitting there.
Yeah. And
Right.
while you were going to the bathroom during the break, I actually went out and tried and tested all these things thoroughly.
Thoroughly and
15 minutes.
ready to give us a review, right? Fantastic. All right, great.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Again, like we said, that's the magic of time lapse when it comes to tech move. We are magicians, ladies and gentlemen. Keith,
Yes.
let's get right into it. There are several items that you had received. Hardly any of them you had actually tried. There were a couple where you ruined the segment where you actually did try them, even though we promoted that you had not. But nonetheless, let's try and make this one work. So let's run with it here.
Okay.
Let's start things off because I love these things. I love LED lights that are, that you can put on a hot shoe and stuff like that of your camera. Let's go back to the Dracast LED160. Keith, what say you about it? What's so great about this one?
There's nothing really that special about it. Other than the fact that it was cheap. I got it for a good deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty much it. No, it's
and that pretty much says it all, does it not?
that says it all. It's a nice high CRI bicolor light, so you can dial in the temperature.
What is CRI? What does that mean?
It stands for Color Rendering Index,
Ah.
and it is a term used to rate the kind of evenness of lights. When you say something has a high CRI, if something has a CRI of over 90, it means it's probably a pretty good-looking light, especially on flesh tones. The newer LEDs, the older LEDs had CRIs really low, like 60, 70. They were terrible.
Okay.
People look like they belonged in The Walking Dead.
That or look like Flash was on all the time, right? Completely washed out. Just washed out.
Washed out, but the color, it was mainly the color part of it.
Okay.
The color would have been really greenish or just ugly.
All right.
Yeah. So as LEDs have gotten better and better and better, the CRI has gotten higher. And now CRI isn't always the best indication of a good light, but it's one of them. It's one of the indications. So it's basically how even the spectrum is, like between the different shades of colors, the different hues, how even it is across the board. Like sunlight is super even. Tungsten is super even. Anything that's heated, some kind of material that's actually heated up is usually a very nice even temperature spectrum. Things like LEDs, they tend to be kind of one-dimensional, but they're getting better now. And so this is a pretty high CRI. It looks good. It's got a nice solid aluminum case. It's maybe a little bit heavier than the plasticky ones, but that's good in a way because then you can just drop it and not worry about it. The plastic ones, you drop them and that's it.
So it seems to be relatively resilient.
Yeah, it's made out of some really thick corrugated aluminum. The outside.
Okay.
It's maybe a little too beefy in a way because it's a little bigger than some, but it's great. So I like it. It's just another little thing I can throw into the bag and and power it by the L series batteries. Small ones or big ones or whatever.
Right.
So it's
Good.
just an extra thing that I got for a good deal. So I'm happy with it. Unfortunately, nobody's going to be able to take advantage of this because this is a one-time deal at B&H. So, at its current price, it's probably not worth getting.
Right. It's one of those things where it's perfect on a nice flash sale or something like that.
Yes.
But nothing you'd really want to pay full price for.
No, if you're going to get one of those, just get a plastic one that's the same price with just plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like the one I probably have.
Yeah, like yours.
Which I think,
Rodney's.
which in all reality is fantastic. Except
Yeah.
I'm always going to keep coming to this well. I probably said it earlier before. Takes 5 batteries. Why 5? I'm always going to have an extra one in my bulk battery purchase. I'm always going to have an extra one. It always makes me mad. Anyway,
I know.
Okay,
It's bad for the environment.
terrific. Too. That's the Dracast LED 160.
Yep.
One thing that was funny is we really wanted the update on the Bright Tangerine Arm, which at our last recording, you couldn't actually get to move. Rigor mortis had set in on this Bright Tangerine Arm. Keith, did you break out the welding torch to kind of melt that thing to get it to flex? What happened?
I just used that old standby brute force, and I just unscrewed the little elbow bolt, and and just unscrewed it, quite a bit, and just turned it as hard as I could. Turned the arms to separate them as hard as I could, and it did eventually move. It's just deceptively tight at first.
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
because it's like the first time it's ever been done.
Right.
So it's got a little stiction.
Okay.
So I just moved it and went, lo and behold, it moved. So you just basically, when something doesn't move,
You
and
try
think
and
it should
break.
just-
You take a mallet to it, right? That's what
Yeah.
I usually do. I take a mallet.
just twist it as hard as you possibly can, like with all your strength, and then that'll make it work better.
And you got it, and you got it to go, right? You got it to go. It really didn't break. It was just okay.
It was fine. I think it's still a little bit on the tight side. Like, I think if there's any adjustment to make it a little bit looser, that would probably be better. But it's not horrible. Like, I could still use it. And the thing is literally just a monster arm. It's kind of small. It's like the size of a regular Noga style arm, but those Noga style arms for the most part are terrible. They're always unscrewing, they're always getting loose, they're always doing something weird.
Right.
So this one's kind of cool because even when it's fairly tight, you can move it around and it still stays. So, and you really can't do that with other arms. So you could have a pretty hefty monitor on it. Like I put my Odysseys on there.
Right.
And you could just put it in whatever position you want, and it'll stay. So you kind of have to force it into that position with some force, but then after that, it'll stay. So that part's really good. So I like it.
That's good.
It's a little heavier than I think it needs to be. Like I wish it could be just as strong, but not so heavy. I think it weighs like a couple pounds.
Oh, really?
It's not light.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a solid couple pieces of metal, but
Probably
but
has to be for all the stuff that it's proclaiming that it can hold.
Yeah, it's supposedly holds 20 pounds or something, which is crazy. So can you imagine putting 20 pounds onto an end of a little arm like that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe, but and it not moving, right? Holding that 20 pounds, which is pretty nifty.
Yeah. So and one kind of good thing. So both ends have one end has a 1/4-20 in it, and that's the end that you would put into like the monitor side probably, and then the other end has a 3/8 standard 3/8 screw, and that's kind of annoying because the whole thing about these Noga arms and just all these arms in general is when they have a screw-in type connection, they unscrew depending on where you have it. Like if you have it mounted like sticking out to the side, the weight of whatever monitor stuff will make it unscrew from whatever it's mounted to, which is kind of annoying. You know what I mean? Like if you screw something in and then you're just moving around, it'll start unscrewing from the threaded part that it's screwed into your camera or whatever thing you screwed it into. So that's always been an annoying part of all these arms. So that's why I go for these NATO SWAT type connectors, which are basically these clamps that clamp onto things. Right. But this doesn't have that. So, but what's actually a really good feature of it is that the 3/8 part, the part that goes into the camera, the tripod or whatever, that also has a part of it that's a 15 millimeter round section. So right before the part that screws in is a larger metal part that's 15 millimeters, exactly 15 millimeters in diameter, circular. And so you can put that into 15 millimeter holders that are much more secure. So what I've wound up doing is just mounting a 15 millimeter type hole clamp into wherever I want it to be. For example, on my camera, on a tripod, or wherever I want to mount this Titan arm. And then I use that to secure it rather than screwing in the 3/8 into the camera. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty good touch. On the other side, though, it's still got kind of the issue, which is the 1/4-20 onto the monitor. And if you twist the monitor in such a way where you're unscrewing it, it might unscrew on you. So I'll have to figure out a solution to that. But overall, it's nice. It's expensive, but it's not more expensive than Zacuto stuff. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So something you will keep.
I'm keeping it.
Excellent.
Yep,
that is the Bright Tangerine Arm. Fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
So, I think so far so good. 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
With Keith Moreau, it almost doesn't get this good.
Nope, it does not.
All right. So now let's move on to the SWIT D-Tap, Keith. The SWIT D-Tap. Remind our good listening audience, including myself, what this thing is.
It's basically just a battery that you normally put into a camcorder.
Oh, I remember.
And
That's right. Okay.
And it's got little extra power outlets on it.
Had USB on it and all this kind of stuff, right? You could power USB.
Yeah, it's got a USB, and it's also got another connector called a D-Tap, which I think is typically 12 volts. But it's just a little 2-pin connector that is used to power a lot of professional gear. It's kind of like a universal connector. So if you have this on, for example, on my FS5, which normally has a kind of big expensive battery on it. If you buy the Sony ones, they're pretty expensive. And this battery's not cheap. I think this battery's like $250, and it's big, but it's very powerful, and it's got these D-Tap things. So if I wanted to, even though it's big and heavy, it's still less big and heavy than putting separate batteries in all your stuff. So if you have a big rig and you just want to have one battery and not worry about all these other batteries, you can just use this one and then plug your Odyssey in, or if you have any Hdmi stuff or other phones to charge or whatever, you can just plug them all into one battery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I got it. I got it mainly just to save a little bit of weight and space when I'm running with lots of extra peripherals on my FS5.
And how did it do?
It does great. It's a nice big battery, and nothing more to say other than the fact that it's big and powerful, and it works.
So it can light up a small city then, maybe?
Yeah, it can light up several cities. Well, the Lego cities.
Right.
And yeah, so nothing more to say other than it's high quality, kind of expensive, but sometimes batteries are. So
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that is the SWIT D-Tap battery. And, okay, here we go. One of my favorites here. Here's the big one.
Yes.
Let's talk Phantom 4 Plus. We got to hear about this one.
Okay. Well, Phantom 4 Plus. So I just actually used it like 2 days ago for the first time. I had it sitting in my garage for about a month. I just had not had time to break it out. Because when you break the stuff out, it's kind of an investment time. I mean, you have to, just to break it out and make sure it works and fly it, it's going to take like at least a couple hours.
Sure. Because you have to set it right and all this kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, and I kind of forgot about it when I last did this, is you actually have to register the DJI, which is an online thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like your controller, the thing that has like the remote joystick thing, communicates with your Phantom, and they kind of lock together. But before the Phantom can actually fly, like it will not take off unless you register it with DJI.
Oh, very smart. Very smart.
Yeah. And the last time I did it with my Phantom 4, not the 4 Pro, but the 4, which is last year's, it was really quick. I just did it. It logged in. It said, okay. And then it was ready to fly. Well, this time it could not get it to register. Oh. I had it all set up. It was communicating. The Phantom and the controller were communicating. Oh, yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about the controller and all that. So basically, there's always a controller that has joysticks on it. That's how you fly it. That's how you can make it lift off, land, etc. And in the past, you'd have to put your iPad or Android or iPhone and connect it directly to this controller. It had like a USB port on it for that. And that was kind of cool. But in a way, it was a little kludgy because you had to have this little clamp thing that clamped in your device, your screen smart device, and then you had to plug it into your iPad, and then plug it into your controller and your iPad. So for example, what I used an iPad most of the time because it's nice and big. Right. But the problem is that especially outside, it's kind of hard to see sometimes. The iPad just isn't that bright. So I'd have to put a hood on it to see it, and then by the time you have all this stuff and put it together, it's pretty time consuming to just get this to set up in the field. Sure. And it's got extra moving parts and things that can be lost and blown away and placed somewhere temporarily while you're fiddling with something else and can be lost. So what I did was I ordered the Phantom 4 Pro Plus. Okay, and the plus is that it actually has an included screen, and it's like a 7-inch, 8-inch screen on it. Oh, okay. And it's all
kind of all built in already.
It's all built in. I don't have to add an iPad to it or anything. And also it's a high brightness screen, so it's supposedly works out in the sun. You know, where you can actually see what's going on in the sun. So anyway, and it's all, you know, it's all really well made. The actual helicopter is pretty much the same as my Phantom 4. I didn't see too much of a difference, but I think it's got some subtle differences in safety and sensors and things. I think internally there's a big difference in the camera quality and other things. Anyway, so I kind of got it all set up and communicating. That went pretty quick. That took like 15 minutes. But then when I tried to register it, it just would DJI kept giving me this error. It said, could not connect to the server. Try again after reboot. So, and I thought, oh, great.
Just a simple error. It's really not giving you too much, right? As most error messages do.
It was very generic. It was kind of implying that there was an error on the other side, like it wasn't communicating. But I'm pretty sure it was communicating because the part of the controller that was communicating with DJI was giving me all kinds of announcements and ads and things from DJI itself that were live, that were obviously live. So I think it was communicating over the internet fine with it. And I was able to log in with my DJI account. I have a DJI account already for my other stuff. And so I think the internet connection was working. It was just this one registration part of it that wasn't. Yeah, so
it just wouldn't go, right? It's just stuck and all you know is that it's not working. Error. What is the error?
What is the error? And so I looked it up on the internet. A few people had similar issues, but there was no real conclusive reason. Like their registration servers could have been down. And this was Chinese New Year. This is the day of Chinese New Year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So DJI is a Chinese company. They're closed. They're closed for like a week.
Oh, yeah.
Just like all Chinese companies are.
Of course.
Yeah. So, because it's like the huge holiday there.
That's right.
And they even had an announcement on their forum and support page. We're not going to be answering calls.
we're nowhere to be found. Don't worry. We didn't close up. We're just celebrating our holiday.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, great. So I can't really even get any support anyway. So I said, well, maybe it's because the firmware on the helicopter is too old, so I'm going to upgrade the firmware. So I upgraded the firmware on the helicopter or the quadcopter to the latest firmware. But then I thought, oh, maybe the firmware on my controller is old, and it was. And updating the firmware on the controller is much more obscure than on the quadcopter. I guess it's not done as often. But I upgraded that. It still had the same issue, and I was like, great. Okay, so now 3.5 hours had passed, and actually I had scheduled a shoot with this quadcopter at like 1 p.m. and now it's getting to like noon. So I've been working on it since 8 a.m. Like 4 hours of frustrating, firmware upgrading, downgrading,
right,
errors,
with no end in sight. Correct, no end in sight.
Pretty much no end in sight.
Right.
So I'm just like stabbing in the dark at this point. At one point, I thought it somehow had registered, even though it didn't tell me it was successful, because it actually started communicating with the Phantom.
Oh, wow.
I could see the camera of the Phantom and do a little bit of controlling with it. So I said, oh, okay, great. Somehow it's working. So I brought it outside to my little porch just to lift it up in the air, and it wouldn't lift off. It would just refuse to lift off. So I think it was actually a bug in the software that was letting me see the Phantom, but not. But the Phantom was smart enough not to take off without being registered. Oh, man.
That's great.
So anyway, so I just said, okay, what else could it be? Could it be because I used an illegal character in the name? Because you got to name your Phantom before you. Right. So you give it a name. And I just named it Keith's Pro 4 Plus with the symbol plus at the end. Because that's how DJI names it.
Sure.
And, they use a plus symbol. And I just left the plus symbol off. Okay? And then after I took the plus symbol off, it just worked immediately. It registered. Really? Okay, thanks. You're registered. Great. Have fun.
Is that right? So it's
yes.
So the plus sign was one of those was a special character that you really shouldn't be using, even though it's in the name itself.
I think so. I guess it could have been just luck. No. Because I haven't really tried changing it back to plus and see if it doesn't work.
Right.
But I know that when I didn't use the plus, it just suddenly started working. So anyway, don't use a plus, people. Just use regular letters.
Don't.
Yeah. Or you can use Chinese characters if you're Chinese, because there is a selection in there. And the very first time I brought it up, a lot of the menus were in Chinese.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, like the OK box, which I assumed was OK, was actually in Chinese and stuff like that. So, and the thing was, I got it like a month ago when it had just come out. So I think I got a pretty early version of the firmware.
Right.
And so anyway, so I finally got it working. So I called the person I was going to film, and I said, okay, I got it working. We can try it, but I don't even know like if it's going to work, because I basically just lifted it off for 2 minutes.
Right.
And then landed it. So, we can try it. So let's give it a try. So yeah, so I tried it out there in the field, and it had been a little while since I'd used my Phantom, and I forgot how to use some of the things.
Sure.
So, but I remembered well enough to kind of get it to work and to work well, and it's very stable and very safe, and probably safer than the last one. And okay, so I have to tell you, I was actually filming at this place in San Francisco called Bernal Heights.
Yes.
And you may be familiar with it.
I am familiar with that. Very famous.
Yeah. So like San Francisco has a bunch of kind of tall hills.
Yep.
Like the whole city is a bunch of hills.
Yep.
And on top of almost every hill is a big antenna array.
Right.
Which are known to, interfere with quadcopters and RC devices and make them crash.
Right.
So my particular shoot was on Bernal Heights, very near the antenna array.
Okay.
So so as soon as I get it set up, I get like, warning, severe interference noticed. Fly at your own risk. Caution. Coming from my little thing.
Is this flashing text, or is there sound that comes with it, or what is it?
I think there is a little voice that says caution.
Really?
But that's it. And then the rest is text and like big warnings of yellow. Not red, which means don't do it or you're going to kill somebody.
Right.
But the yellow, like, you may kill somebody and we're not responsible. So
when it has stuff like that, will it just cease working? Is there that type of feature on the machine?
There's some situations where it just won't take off.
Okay.
Yeah, like if it senses that it's an enclosed environment,
mm-hmm.
or it's unsafe, there are situations where it just won't.
Okay.
And usually it's just some kind of glitch, like you can just move it a few feet in it. Like, I'll give you an example. This is actually kind of scary. The software when I was flying it, and the helicopter is like, well, luckily the helicopter was just about ready to land, so it was like above the kind of firm ground.
Yes.
It wasn't in the middle of the air, like over the city or something, which is where it was for a while.
Yes.
It crashed. The controller crashed.
Oh wow!
And says controller has had an error. Do you want to reboot now? And the quadcopter is still flying. So I'm kind of going, I'm really glad that this helicopter is like kind of near me, pretty close to the ground.
Right.
Because what if that had happened when it was out there in the middle of nowhere?
Right. I mean, what if it was out there in the wild or whatever it is? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of scary. I think some of it had to do with the fact that I was pretty close to the antennas. But it could have been anything. Anyway, so that was that. So I rebooted it, and luckily it kind of re-grabbed onto the quadcopter and started communicating again. I was able to land it. Another time, the quadcopter just would not land. It just said it's unsafe to land here.
Oh, okay.
And the landing zone was it wasn't quite level. It was just slightly at an angle, but not terrible. I'd lifted off and landed several times in that same spot. But for some reason, it thought that it was just unsafe. So I had to move it over like 10 feet to a little bit slightly more level ground, and then I was able to land it.
Wow.
So I guess you're right. It does have a lot of safety, kind of annoying safety features.
Kind of annoying, but yet somewhat necessary at the same time.
Yeah. It's really fun to fly because you feel like it's pretty darn safe. There's even a obstacle avoidance feature where it just will not get closer than 5 feet. Like my shot was to fly right up into the front of this guy's face. And of course I wasn't going to do it at full speed. I was going pretty slow and going to speed it up later. But it wouldn't let me get within 5 feet of this guy.
Oh, really? Oh,
like
wow.
It just stopped. It just stopped. It would, even if I pushed the controls forward, it would not go forward.
Oh, wow.
You can disable those features. And so I actually had to deactivate that feature, and I got pretty close to him, like a couple feet away.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, I like it. I made a mistake. I wanted to record in H.265, which is a higher quality. It's basically a higher compression ratio.
Right.
So it's kind of the equivalent. I would think it's the equivalent of if you're recording 100 megabits per second on H.264. It's like the equivalent of recording 150 megabits per second.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, I guess I hadn't set it up properly to record in H.265 because when I looked at this footage later, it was H.264.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably slightly blockier and coarser than the 265.
I believe 265 is the same format that the GH5 is going to be using.
I think so. And I wish that more manufacturers would use that because they could get a lot more, 50% more quality in their stuff. You know, because I'm always after quality. Not so much saving space, but just getting better quality.
Right.
And so I screwed up on that. So I don't really know how the 265 footage looks, but the 264 looks pretty good. It looks
usable
pretty good with that one.
I'm guessing at least usable.
It's definitely usable, and it's probably not the sharpest 4K. Like if you compare the 4K of the A7R2 to that, it's like night and day.
Oh, really?
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. The A7R2 is way better.
Okay.
Just the details and the sharpness. But it's not terrible. It's and probably even an iPhone is slightly better, I'm thinking. But it's still, considering this teeny little camera is a 1-inch sensor and it's flying on the bottom of this teeny little quadcopter is pretty darn amazing.
Yeah. That is pretty neat.
And DJI's hardware is really good.
So
their software,
well, so far, I guess the thing to learn is just try not to use too many special characters. You might cause it to hiccup or something or explode.
I would just say use vowels and consonants. Don't use anything else.
That's
no
good.
ampersands, no semicolons.
So the Phantom 4 Plus, something you're going to keep?
I am definitely going to keep it.
Do you can you foresee yourself as you start to master it even more, using it more often?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to use it more often. I'm on the way to be getting a commercial license for it.
Oh, great.
So yeah, there's a test you can take, and once I take that test, I'll be able to fly it.
Excellent.
Legally for money. So
very good.
Not rather than illegally for money like I do now.
Right. Exactly. So, yes.
Just kidding, FAA.
You'll be able to carry that, add another thing to your already gigantic wallet already, I'm sure. Right? It'll be just this gigantic wallet with another.
All full of permits and licenses.
Yes, to fly this, do that, whatever this, whatever that. Fantastic. All right. That is the Phantom 4 Plus. And maybe
Pro Plus.
For Pro Plus. That's a mouthful, I'll tell you that much. Holy moly. And you know what's great is that, you say it fast and we could probably have it as a curse word. So anyway, all right. Another great DJI thingamababa.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on.
Yes.
Another exciting thing, because I really love their first thing, which was the H1, and very seriously considered that until you were good enough to introduce me to the Nebula, and that is the Pilotfly H2. And that is something that I've been wanting to hear about, how you've been doing with that thing.
Yeah, so I was inspired actually to get this thing because I saw it being used at a dance, at this huge New Year's party that I was at. And there was this videographer lady, and she had this really cool setup, which was this unit, the Pilotfly, and it was mounted on top of a monopod. And so I thought that was really cool that she kind of could do both. She could not have to worry about dismounting the thing and just use it on the monopod when she didn't need to have Steadicam stuff, and it would kind of relieve the weight of it. But then also she could use it with the monopod as well if she wanted to. It was just, I don't know what the monopod was, just some brand of monopod, but it was just kind of cool. And then I said, what is that thing? And then I looked it up and I found the Pilotfly H2, and I found out that it had pretty high weight capacity. Like it actually could hold like up to something like 5 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot. It's not small.
Right.
The thing is not small. It's definitely one of the bigger of the single handled gimbals. But anyway, so I just decided to order it with the great possibility that I would return it.
Right.
My main hope was to see really if the weight capacity was really true or not, or if it was just over advertising.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
oftentimes places do that.
yeah, but for example, I think it has twice its purported weight capacity is twice that of my Came TV single.
Oh,
so
okay.
just to give you an idea, and they're kind of the same size. The single's a little bit more delicate.
Uh-huh.
It's a little slightly smaller in places and a little bit more air to it. The H2 is kind of like a big solid piece of metal. Although I think I personally feel like the industrial design of the H2 is better than the Came single. So the main thing I was going to use it for is to see if I could actually fly my FS5. And so I spent a lot of time getting it mounted on my FS5, or mounting my FS5 to it.
Right.
And
Which is heavy, big, kind of awkward, all this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's it's kind of funny, but the FS5 itself, if it's all stripped down, even without the lens and even the viewfinder and the handle and the top handle, is actually really light.
Oh, okay.
It's like less than 2 pounds.
All right.
You kind of need to have the LCD on it to do anything with it, to adjust it, menus and stuff. So that adds a few more ounces to it, and you have to figure out a place to mount it. You could even mount that off of the actual camera if you wanted to, because it's got a fairly long cord. But that goes into the body for the LCD. And one of the great things I think about the Pilotfly H2 is it uses a standard Swiss Arca type sliding plate, which is it's a pretty standard part in the camera industry. It's mostly used for still cameras,
right?
But it's used a lot more now in video and small video and stuff too. And I it's one of my standards. Like one of my main tripods uses that as its sliding plate. So I have tons of these plates around. And so I wasn't actually able to use the plate that came with it with my FS5. It was just too front heavy.
Okay.
Because it's light, but the thing about it, it's longer than an SLR.
Oh, okay.
So the actual, the depth of the body, like in a Sony, for example, A7, it's only about an inch deep, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the lens sticks out. Well, in the case of the FS5, it's like 5 or so inches deep, maybe 6 inches deep. So that's a lot more clearance it needs in the back, or it's protruding much more in the back, towards the back side of this, and then it starts hitting the back side of the H2 or any single-handle gimbal. So what a strategy is to add weight to the back. Use a bigger battery, put some weights on the back side of it, so that you don't have to push the thing too far back. So it's center of gravity still centered, even with a lens on it.
Okay.
So what I did was I fashioned a plate. I took one of my longer Swiss Arca plates that I have, sliding plate, maybe like a 4 or 5 inch plate, and then I mounted another little what's called a cheese plate. It's basically just like a 1 inch by 4 inch long plate with a bunch of 1/4-20 holes drilled into it.
Right. So you can mount it you can mount whatever the camera to any part of that plate. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what I did was I mounted the camera to the standard Swiss Arca plate, and then I made a T with the back with this cheese plate. So imagine that the T part of the cheese plate is on the back, towards the back side of the camera. And then I had some little weights, 1/4-20 weights that I screwed into the back to weight it down. So with that, I was actually able to balance the FS5.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And it actually kind of worked. It kind of worked with a light lens. It kind of worked.
What kind of light lens? Like a fisheye or something like that? 50 mil, no more than bigger than that? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't think I would be able to use any kind of adapted lens on it. That just wouldn't work.
Right.
So I used a couple native Sony lenses. I have a native 10-18, which is a nice light wide lens.
Yep.
It's APS-C style lens. It's actually not a bad lens. I've used that quite a bit on my A7s, and that was able to balance pretty well. I also have a Rokinon 12 millimeter that I like, and I was able to balance that. I would probably tend to put the Sony one on because it's got built-in optical stabilization, which doesn't hurt on a gimbal.
Right.
It evens out the teeny little shakes that might occur. So I tried it. I was able to fly it a little bit. I was able to fly it pretty well without the LCD on top. When I put the LCD on top to actually use it and see it, then it started getting a little wonky. Like it was starting to kind of vibrate no matter what I did with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And vibration means you have to tune it. And then there's this software. It's called Simple BCG or BGC, Simple Gimbal Control, something like that. And it's a DOS, or it's a Windows or Mac app that goes to the serial through the USB port and then plugs into your H2 or other devices that use this open source software. And so I kind of exposed myself for the first time, really, of trying to tune this thing with this really hard to use, obscure software that has many versions that are really beta and don't work at all. So, like, you have to find, like, there's lots of versions, but if you load the latest version on,
right,
there's actually features that are missing where you can't actually even use it.
Oh, wow.
Especially on the Mac. So I had to load a version that was earlier than what was supplied to me by Pilotfly. And then I tried all these different combinations, and, you know, it's kind of like a black art tuning this software. And,
I'm still trying to figure out the nebula, for crying out loud. You hit it every once in a while, but you know it just takes so much time to get it right. That that's why, like, when I get the A6500, I'm just gonna leave the GH1 on the nebula and never move it again. You know, because it'll be perfect. The GH1 is perfect for that.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
good.
go on. I'm sorry.
That's a good.
Go on.
No, that's a good interlude.
Yeah.
Well, this software to control and tune the gimbal is really obscure and like voodoo. So there's some people that are really good at it, and supposedly Pilotfly has the ability to help you tune your camera for you. Like, it's one of their services. At least this is what people told me on the internet. So I sent them an email because I couldn't really get it to tune very well with my FS5. Like, it just wasn't
going
really
perfectly.
It wasn't perfect. It was vibrating too much, and like I wouldn't want to use it because those vibrations would show up.
Right.
So I emailed them, and I think I emailed them twice without any response, and finally got a response saying, "Oh, just go to the simple BCG software and adjust the strength of the motors, and the vibration will go away. Thank you."
It sounds like my type of customer service, the kind that I give to all of our Tech Move listeners. Oh yeah, well, another episode will come out. Oh yeah, it'll be right away. It'll be right around the corner. That's what I do.
Yeah. So anyway, and I like the Pilotfly, but it's like over $1,000. And I've got the Came TV single, and I don't really need it because I don't think I'm going to be able to get anything usable out of my FS5 with it.
Ah.
And that's really the only reason that I would really want to keep it, would be because the Came TV single is adequate for my smaller cameras.
Right.
It's really nice.
Right.
And it maybe the H2 is a little bit better. There's a couple features. It's a little bit stronger. Probably would work more smoothly maybe in some situations. But I don't have too many smoothness problems with my Came TV. The one big thing that I love about the H2 is the fact that it folds up flat. It just completely squashes down to a flat for storage.
Right.
And the Came TV single is always kind of in a weird mode where it's taking up a lot of space.
Ah. So the H2 kind of folds nice or puts away nice.
It flattens out completely. So it's only like a 1 inch by however big it is.
That's pretty
nice. Yeah, so you could put it into a little compartment pretty easily. The Came TV kind of needs a lot of space to move it around. You know, it needs like the equivalent of like a Canon 1D Mark II with a lens on it to transport it around, which is kind of big.
Yeah.
So, but that's, you know, I can live with that. You know, and then in a couple months when NAB comes out, there's going to be a whole new slew of gimbals out that are going to be better and cheaper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the H2 is going back. Is that what you're saying?
Back.
Really?
It's going back.
Okay.
Yes, it's going back.
All right. So
spend $1,000 on something else I really need.
Yeah, I mean, especially you have Keem TV, and if it's not working on the FS5, well, there you go. It's kind of tough to have all these things just for one camera.
Yeah.
And not really working 100% for that. So
right. So all this was kind of born out of flying the FS5, because really, why would I want to fly the FS5 as opposed to my A7s?
Mm-hmm.
Because the quality of the A7s, A7R Mark II, and even the A7S is, I think, better than the FS5. I think the image quality is better. So why would I do it? Well, the main reason I would do it would be so I could record RAW or 10-bit.
Right.
And that requires an external recorder. So that means I have to have this big thing hanging somewhere anyway. So if I give this handheld gimbal, but I still have this big thing hanging off of it or hanging on me, then what have I really saved?
Yep.
Compared to a bigger gimbal.
Yep.
That I could mount all this stuff. So that brings up these bigger gimbals that I also tested.
Oh, okay.
So that's my segue into that.
Oh,
bigger gimbals.
Excellent. So bigger gimbals that hold more weight,
Yes.
have bigger capacity, probably not like just a single handheld gimbal. Is probably
no, these are the two handle
type of things. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So a lot of people had said that the Letus35 Helix Jr was really good for the FS5, so I ordered one of those.
Okay.
And I think for some people it probably works really well, but I basically spent about 2 hours kind of unpacking it and balancing it, and I nearly just broke apart my FS5 trying to get it to work. Seriously, as soon as I turned it on, it just kind of like twirled around and hit things, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And I just kind of felt like, well, maybe I can get this to work, but if I have this much trouble just out of the box, I don't think I want to deal with it. Another thing is that these things get heavy, right?
Oh, they do.
And
they certainly do.
So and this Helix Jr is not light. It's not. It's kind of a strange. It's different than other gimbals like the Ronin, which I'll be talking about in a minute. Most of those gimbals are two handles, but the device hangs down.
Okay.
The camera hangs down.
Right.
So, and that's probably because they evolved from hanging down from helicopters and stuff, because that's where they came from.
Okay.
But in the case of the Letus, it's like an inverted middle. So it's like a single-handled gimbal, but with handles on it.
Okay.
With extra handles.
Right.
And it's just kind of weird because, it's kind of hard to describe, but basically, your hands are holding part of the gimbal that actually does the tilting part of it. So your hands are actually holding the tilting part of it. It's not like you're suspending something and then it's doing all the work. Your hand is part of that whole process.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's weird. It's
so,
weird.
So does that mean you still have, of course you're controlling the thing, but you kind of hope that the motor takes over the smoothness of it, right?
Yeah, it does, and I think it moves around based on level and altitude and stuff like that. But it requires you to be holding it all the time.
Oh, okay.
You can't mount it on something. Like other gimbals, you can actually use them for other reasons, like mounting on different devices.
Right.
But this thing is really meant for holding with two hands, and that's pretty much it. And the way that it can get away with having heavier cameras is it doesn't have the limitation of the back side of it. So most gimbals have a thing that holds it, but it's got a back side to it, and you can't push the camera back farther than a certain amount, or else it'll hit that back side of it.
Okay.
Kind of like it's like a C, right? That holds it's like a C that's right behind, say, the battery compartment of the camera,
right,
of the camcorder, and that battery compartment, that back side of the camera, will just eventually hit that C.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the Letus is it doesn't have one of those. The back side's totally kind of open, and you're just moving the whole camera back and forth. So that's why you can get bigger cameras on it, longer cameras on it. So it's kind of cool for longer cameras.
Right.
But no, I just tried it for a couple hours and just, no, I'm going to return this.
It wasn't doing it for you.
It just wasn't. It was too much. It was too. I felt like it was kind of jury rigged as well. I felt like the way the battery plugged in, and just the fit and finish. It just didn't. I didn't feel like it was. I felt it was kind of like a homemade project, and I hope that Letus isn't listening to me and just hating me for it. But I kind of felt like it was an evolved homemade project. So
well, little do you know, I started a new company called Letus. Letus35. Is that what it is?
Lettuce, bacon, lettuce, and tomato.
Let me spell that real quick. They spell it Letus 35.
Yes.
That's the
and
name
I
of the
actually am
company.
a repeat customer.
Oh, okay.
Because
so you do actually like them. It's just not this.
No,
product.
I love them. I bought this amazingly gigantic 35 millimeter lens adapter from them like 10 years ago. That it would take a regular 35 millimeter lens, project it onto a spinning ground glass, and then put that through a mirror and put that into my camcorders.
Oh, okay.
And that's how you emulated large sensors.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
It was really weird, and it was gigantic, and it just was totally impractical. But for about a year, I used it to do what DLSRs did the next year.
Right.
For a lot less money. But anyway. So it went back. I already got a refund on that one.
Okay, so then let's since that one's the Helix Jr. That's been thrown out in the garbage can. Let's talk about the DJI Ronin then.
Okay, DJI Ronin M actually. So
M,
there's two.
The M.
Yeah. The original Ronin was kind of groundbreaking. It was kind of like saying to Movi, yeah, we're going to do what you are doing, but we're going to do it for like 1/10 the price. So not the 1/10, but a lot less.
Right.
So because the Movies were $5,000 to $10,000.
Oh, wow.
And then the Ronin was like $2,000 right off the bat. And the Ronin M nowadays, I think it started a little bit more expensive when it first came out, but nowadays the Ronin M is only like $1,000. Oh. So this Ronin M, which is big, huge, and it comes with a lot of stuff, is less expensive than the Pilotfly H2. So the thing about the Ronin, all the DJI Ronin stuff and Ronin M is there's this kind of it's kind of like why you would choose the Sony over Micro Four Thirds, because there's so many other people making extra stuff for these things because it's so popular.
Right.
Yeah,
which is what I'm really into.
Yeah, you want to take advantage of the popularity of something because there's usually some gadget that's made for it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's kind of what's really cool about the DJI Ronin M. Anyway, so I got the Ronin M. I also got this special kind of T-plate. It's kind of like a professional made plate, like the one I made for the H2 to help balance the weight in the back.
Right.
But it's all made to fit into the Ronin M, which has its own special type of plate. It has holes to mount weights and things in the back of it to do that back weighting thing. Because the Ronin M is not really meant for really large cameras.
Okay.
It has the motor power for it, but it doesn't have the size of its cage is not deep enough.
Oh.
So like the regular Ronin, you can buy these arm extenders to make it go out farther and allow more space in the back. But in the case of the M, you can't. So the only solution is to weight down the back of your camera. So this company called Cinemil, this cameraman started because he was a Steadicam expert and he saw this need and he invented this whole company to help improve the workability of these Ronins and Ronin M's. So one of the products is this. It's called the Cinemil dovetail plate or something like that. And it has little holes that are these 3/8 threaded holes that you could put the weights you can buy from Cinemil in there. The Cinemil weights are actually pretty expensive, although they're really nicely made. I actually did a kind of cheaper jury rig thing. I bought our friends at Optica.
Optica, sure.
Yeah, so there's little 1/4 weights they have.
And you know what? Those are very well made. Actually.
They are.
I do love their little weights. They're cool looking.
Yeah, so you can buy, I think, like 6 of these for less than $50. So that's what I did.
Nice.
of the Optica weights. Whereas if you got 6 of the Cinemil weights, it would be like $200.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, because they're not cheap.
Right.
Although I would rather use the Cinemil ones because they're actually better. But in this case, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So So I got a couple of them just to see how they were. Anyway, yeah. So with all the weights and everything balanced, and I think I sent you a couple photos of my final rig, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And
so I got it all
quite impressive, actually.
Yeah. So I got my Odyssey mounted on it. I had the really big lenses mounted on with adapters on my FS5. I was using the 18 to 35 on my FS5, the famous Sigma that we
the Sigma Art.
Yeah, I had that 1835 with an adapter onto my FS5, and then my FS5 had a bunch of weight on it to make it balanced. I was able to get it to balance with even that huge front end.
Wow.
I was able to mount my Odyssey on top, connect it in, do raw recording with it. Pretty much get it to work really well. The only thing is it weighs like 20 pounds. And holding up 20 pounds in front of you
right.
for more than a few minutes is not easy.
No, it's you're actually training for the Mr. Olympia contest when you start doing that.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit.
You remember when I went to LA, Cinegear in LA?
Yes.
And I interviewed the Ready Rig folks.
Yes. You mean that overhead vest thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So if I were to entertain the thought of using this 20-pound rig for any extended period of time, I would have to get something like this Ready Rig.
Absolutely. That's what I would think. I would think that you can't be carrying around all that stuff. That'd be crazy.
And it's a big commitment because this whole device and everything, it's not, I mean, once it's set in this, it's not like screwing on your little thing to the Nebula, right?
Right.
Or the H2 or my Came TV. That's like a 5-minute process.
Right.
This is like an investment. This takes an hour just to get it all set up.
Oh, I would. I mean, like you actually have to plan for it and know that that's on your shooting schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, like, compare this to, say, the Phantom 4 Pro shoot. It's way easier to get a 4 Pro shoot in the air than get this Ronin thing working and on a shoot.
Right.
So, and then you have to get the Ready Rig. That's another $2,000, at least $2,000. Then you're committed. You're the Ready Rig guy. You're not anything else in this gig. You're the Ready Rig and Ronin guy. That's all you're doing. You're not a filmmaker.
Right.
You're not a director. You're not a production assistant. You're the Ready Rig Ronin guy.
Very much like how Steadicam guys were just Steadicam guys, right?
Yeah. So I was trying to picture myself. Am I that guy anytime? No. No, I'm not going to be that guy.
I don't want to be that guy.
I don't want to be that guy. I'm going to be telling that guy what to do,
right.
But I'm not going to be that guy.
I don't want to be the idiot with the vest and the 9-foot like overhead poles coming out of me. I look like what's the Spider-Man? Is it Dr. Otto or something like that?
Dr. Octopus? Yeah, Dr. Oct.
That was great. I mean, it looked like that, for crying out loud.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So unfortunately, even though it's really cool and works really, really well, like I did quite a bit of filming, in 1 minute increments,
right?
Because it's so heavy.
Before you had to put the darn thing down from just exhaustion.
Yeah, it's like you're pumping your biceps.
Oh, sure you are.
I just can't see myself really using it in a real world situation very often. So, and by the time you add it all up and you add the Easy Rig, now you're up to like $4,000.
Yeah.
I can use that $4,000 for something else.
Yep.
I could hire some guy to
hold it really steady.
Around.
Hey, you're shaking. Yeah. Stop shaking. You're gonna get deducted from your pay.
Yeah. So so that's gonna go back, and I have to just set that return up still.
All right.
But yeah, so a lot of packing, a lot of.
So I think the big lesson is out of the 6, 7, 8 things that we've talked about. You had about a 50% hit rate. It seems like.
Yeah.
It seems like about 50% of them kind of hit. And the odd thing is, all the super expensive ones were not the ones that really worked out, which you would think would kind of work, but I guess not.
I guess I'm just kind of visualizing myself using these things, and also I'm thinking, the single handle gimbals are going to get better and better.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind flying my FS5 and maybe just kind of keeping it small, not putting all that extra weight on there, and maybe attaching my Odyssey to it. But I can do that. I could do that on something as small as the H2. So I'm just gonna maybe hold out and see what the other things are in store for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I mean, you kind of have to think of that, the good old businessing, the ROI, return on investment.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, you can only hold the thing for about 30 seconds, but you're paying $4,000 for it. How about, think of something else.
Yeah. Think of something else, like maybe a GH5 on my Came TV single.
There you go. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
A little GH5 action. That's the way we want to do it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's correct. I think
Yeah.
that's correct. Well, hey, I'm happy for you. I'm also sad and disappointed. And because I know it breaks your heart that sometimes these things just don't work out, especially the things that you are really hoping on, some of those big ticket items.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Keith. We'll make it up to you somehow.
I'm a little heartbroken that I can't keep these things.
I know. Well, you'll go to next year's NAMM and find 60 other different things, and you'll get over it. You'll be fine. All right. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, that's the trials and tribulations of Keith Moreau. Keith, thank you very much for sharing that just utterly dastardly experience that you had. And
thank you.
Therapy will be paid for by the home office of TechMove. So, Keith, thank you very much for sharing that. And but you know what, Keith, we've come to the end of the show.
It's the actual end of this particular show.
It is.
Episode 35.
It is the show. Yes.
Wow.
Episode 35 is going to come to a conclusion. Some people are saying right now, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
But there are others there who wish that we continued on for another 5 hours, which is not unheard of for us. But you know what, Keith? Let's just roll that up into episode 36. What do you say?
Okay, let's do that.
Fantastic. Keith, let's tell the good folks at home where they can reach us. First, let me share, because I know this off the top of my head. And you can hit us up on our website, which is at www.techmovepodcast.com. And I know one of our other favorite things is how they can help support the show. Keith, I'll let you tell us all about that little thing.
They can support us by going to our website and clicking on any of the Amazon links. And then if you click on those links, you'll get to Amazon and you can buy whatever you want and we'll get a commission on that. Or you can go to techmovepodcast.com/Amazon and also use that little cookie to buy anything through Amazon. And we'll get a commission.
And that really helps us support the podcast to be able to keep it on air and keep all this fun and silliness that we enjoy doing so much.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate that. If you can use that link, that would be fantastic. We also want to remind all of you to subscribe to us on iTunes. Mm-hmm. Look for us. It's called TechMove. And we'd love comments. We'd love some reviews. Again, as we always say, only positive ones. We are also on Facebook, TechMove Podcast. You'll find us there. I think we have a Twitter handle. Is that correct?
Yes, at TechMove Podcast.
Fantastic. And I think you can also, this is what's great too. You can find us on Stitcher, search for TechMove. And I think we also have a new thing that we're available on. Is that correct?
Yes, we're actually on another podcast site called Player FM. And you just search for TechMove and you'll find us there.
Fantastic. Player FM, thank you very much for housing TechMove. We really appreciate it. That's really, really great. All right, Keith, another show down the tubes. And thank you very much for all the great discussion and all the great product reviews and all listening to my whining and crying about everything else. So thank you so much, Keith. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Rod.
All right, that's Keith Moreau. I have been Rod Louie, and we want to thank you so much for joining us on Tech Move. And until next time, we'll see you, next time. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See ya.